The first thing the man did upon returning to Earth before its destruction was to use all his resources to repair a broken brush. Only he knew that this brush was a legendary double S-level item that could grant him a hidden martial saint physique. The story goes back to when a game called BattleNet rapidly became popular worldwide. At first, it was just an ordinary game, but the appearance of the Space Alliance changed everything. The game became reality. If you died in the game, you would lose your life in reality as well. Moreover, countries with lower rankings will be destroyed by monsters. This has become a struggle for survival. Now, only 10 countries remain on Earth. They are about to face their final moment of life and death, because they need to fend off the invasion of doomsday monsters. However, against such powerful monsters, even though many players join the fight, they are as insignificant as ants in front of the monsters. With just one strike, the entire team could be wiped out instantly. But the appearance of one man turned the tide. He gathered his strength into the palm of his hand, then unleashed a full-force blow toward the monster. A violent tremor followed. The notification of a successful defense was heard up front. And he was the man known to others as the martial saint, Xing Jihan. Although he won at the cost of losing an arm, the credit was taken by the blonde uncle, president of the nation's top guild, world's #1 player Baron Williams. Meanwhile, the saint quickly healed the man. Although the man who defeated the monster alone was remarkable, as the president, he couldn't tolerate his subordinate outshining him. So he called his team. He took all the rewards from the boss battle for himself. Even though the remaining team members were extremely dissatisfied, they were helpless. After all, he is now humanity's last hope. The leader explained why he didn't share the rewards with the man. Because he's not from their country. Obviously, the man was already used to it. Even though he possesses 3S level skills and is ranked 7th in the world, he was ignored and discriminated against because he wasn't from their country. But more tormenting than these was that he was the only one left from country H. Just as the man's arm was about to heal, a mission completion notice appeared ahead. Country M successfully defended, Country Z successfully defended. The other 8 countries ended in failure. However, the victory condition required more than half of the players to survive. Clearly, humanity failed. Now it's the critical moment for humanity's survival. They must defeat Uruk to have hope for survival. Upon hearing this, the Saintess immediately advised the president that if facing Uruk, they would need the help of the correspondent. After all, it was thanks to him that they defeated that monster last time. But before he could finish speaking, the president decided on the person to handle it. As a burst of white light appeared, a gigantic Uruk suddenly appeared before everyone. At the same time, the president immediately unleashed all his power. Suddenly, a surge of thunderous power floated around him. But just as he charged fiercely at the monster, a dark shadow flashed by the next second. Then came the news of the leader's demise. Upon hearing this, everyone fell into panic. In no time at all the humans were completely wiped out. Accompanied by the monster's final axe swing, a notification came from the front: the game is over. Humanity has been classified as a worthless species. The Space Alliance decided to erase humanity. Then black matter started to appear around humans. Next, it instantly devoured them. The world ultimately met its destruction. Even the man thought so. But in the next second, an error message appeared. One human still survived. It turned out the man's unknown divine skill resisted the deletion. Even the Space Alliance was very surprised by this. If he had known the true name of the nameless divine skill earlier, then Country H wouldn't have been destroyed. He could have protected the most important person. At the same time, the gods of the Space Alliance became interested in the man. After a vote, they gave him another chance to challenge. As his vision blurred, when the man opened his eyes again, he found himself back at the start of the game. It seems like this is a good opportunity. If he can make good use of the experiences accumulated in the previous life, he will definitely be able to change the future. It's not necessary to change the future. This time, he will protect everything. Because he witnessed the world heading towards destruction, and now he has returned. At the time when the Space Alliance just appeared, Country H was still very stable. In the world player rankings, there are 11 considered the strongest. And the third ranked among them is a player from Country H. Sword King Yoon Sejong. Because of his presence, H nation's status has never been shaken by other countries. But one day, Sword King suddenly announced he would join the new guard of the county nation. This was the most shocking news in the history of H nation. The man happened to return on this day. In his memory, ever since Sword King left, H nation's ranking in the battle network plummeted. Because of Sword King's departure. So, the H nation was ultimately destroyed. And this guy actually turned out to be his brother-in-law. He couldn't understand why his sister fell in love with this guy. If his sister were still alive, Would things have been different? But now wasn't the time to ponder such questions. At the moment, his stats were miserably low. But that was to be expected, considering the man had been wasting his time. Because he never realized how powerful this talent truly was. In this world, although humans over the age of 18 become players, only a very small number awaken their talents. When his talent was rated as the lowest level, F, he began to live a life of idleness. At that time, he did not know that the true value of this skill would only manifest after awakening. However, now he is very puzzled as to why he has only level 1 attributes but is displayed as level 2. He suddenly remembers that it seems because he accidentally drank experience points. That was what caused the level up. But what is this? Why is there a score of 100,000? He does not remember achieving anything great. Could it be that changes occurred because of the return? At that moment, the performance points exchange coupon beside him caught his attention. It can open the performance store. It seemed like a special tool meant just for him. So, he decisively used it. In the next second, the performance store appeared right before him. It seems that by upgrading the store level, he could add more tools. He then upgraded the store to level 4. And the next second, a prompt from ahead indicated an emergency repair to add a project. It can repair incomplete items to a complete state. At this moment, the man could no longer hide the joy in his heart. Then he went into the game room. Although these were things left by the Sword King, thanks to him, the man could now enjoy himself. He then took out his first item, a damaged writing brush, as the man used the emergency repair. The next second, the damaged brush was successfully repaired. Now the preparations are complete. Double S-class item, Dongfang Shou's brush. Meanwhile, the beginner tutorial for Jiangnan's Bronze League is about to begin. Looking at the little time left, the man immediately summoned a status window. Then he started writing in the window. In the past, there was a reason he was called the Martial Saint. This pen can combine all attributes into combat power. Only by writing those 2 words with this pen can he obtain the legendary Martial Saint physique, accompanied by a powerful force gradually gathering. The attributes on the window kept jumping. Meanwhile, the match countdown ended. The next second, he was transported to the battle network. This time, the mission is to survive. Survive the monsters and players in the arena. When half the players remain, the survival battle will automatically end. Is it really the arena? But at this moment, he is more concerned about whether he got the Martial Saint Constitution. After some checking, the man finally breathed a sigh of relief. Not only did he obtain the Martial Saint Constitution, he even completed a unique skill achievement. Performance increased by 10,000. Looks like it's an old friend again. And this is just the beginning of learning the nameless divine skill. However, as long as he has this, he can easily pass the competition. At that moment, a prompt appeared at the window. The man was playing without a connector. Not using a connector will result in experiencing pain in the game. He suddenly remembered that the connector left by the Sword King could reduce pain by 99%. But there's no need to use it yet. At the same time, a prompt appeared ahead. Complete the limited mission in the beginner tutorial to receive a reward of 1,000 performance points. As long as he possesses the Martial Saint physique, he can easily achieve it as the game begins. He saw a shadow flash behind him. Just when he thought he had taken down the man. The next second, he was stunned in place. Because the man blocked him with just 2 fingers. Now it was his turn to attack. The scene shifts, and time goes back to before Du Hikuei's attack. At this moment, he is ready to shine in the competition. After all, the Jiangnan Bronze League is the stage for the stars of major guilds. It's their debut platform. A guild is a place to cultivate and manage players. They can nurture powerful players early in the league. He belongs to a 2-star guild, run directly by a 2-star group. It's famous for having many stars of tomorrow. After acquiring a level 1 agility talent, Du Hikuei joined the guild. In this world, very few people can obtain level talents. So there's a high chance he can squeeze into the top 50. And among this group of contestants, he immediately noticed a man in the white vest. He looked completely out of place among the competitors. So he instantly launched an attack on him. But he didn't expect that the man, using just 2 fingers, would effortlessly block his move. You have to understand, this was the only speed of agility. Then the man casually flicked it away. Do you dare to participate in this competition with just that bit of talent? He was in disbelief. Are you ignoring my first level talent? Of course, the man confirmed it. Upon hearing this, he immediately unleashed all his power. The next second, he appeared right in front of the man. But the man dodged the attack by sidestepping, accompanied by his continuous attacks. The man skillfully dodged it. Although his speed was much faster than the man had experienced countless battles in his past life. But his attack patterns were too predictable. The man could even anticipate his movements. Just as he swung with all his might toward the man effortlessly struck the sword from his hand with a single palm. Then, he caught him in his momentum. And with a swift strike, the man pierced him on the spot. Although he said he wouldn't let the man off next time. Only the man knew. There wouldn't be a next time. As the player vanished, the long sword in the man's hand slowly faded away. Now that the warm-up is over, to get first place, he needs to kill more than 5 people. And just as expected, no one chose monsters as opponents. In the game network, besides players, there are also monsters. But only by killing 10 monsters does it equate to killing 1 player. So most players at the beginning only choose players as opponents. Especially with monsters like the Uruks in groups, no one chooses them as opponents. At this time, a new task appears ahead: eliminate the Uruk group. Killing 30 monsters rewards you with 500 performance points. Although this is a thankless task, the reward is 5 times that of killing humans. If that's the case, there's no reason not to do this task. Monsters are just monsters, compared to the real Uruks. They really don't count as much, so let's give it a try. As the man quickly approached the monsters, the Uruks also launched an attack toward him. At the same time, 2 axes flew straight at the man. But he caught them effortlessly. This is how you throw an axe. The axes he threw instantly took down 2 monsters. As the monsters stood in shock, the man had already appeared behind them. As the man swung the battle axe in his hand, the next second, the heads of numerous monsters were slashed off with the sound of an eagle's cry. At this moment, the mission progress had already reached January 6th. Just then, numerous monsters launched an attack on the man. But with just a single turn, the man instantly slaughtered the surrounding monsters. At the same time, a spear shot straight toward the man. But the man broke it on the spot. Even the orc nearby found the scene hard to believe. In his moment of distraction, the man swung the giant axe at the orc. But the next second, the axe unexpectedly shattered on the spot. Seeing this, the orcs swarmed toward the man, seizing the opportunity. However, the man remained calm and composed, suddenly exerting force with his feet. The next moment, the ground around him exploded instantly. He then leaped into the air and grabbed the long sword. Immediately, a figure flashed by. In just a moment, the man had completed the mission to eliminate the orcs. He then earned 500 performance points, and shortly after, his level increased. Generally speaking, experience points are tallied after the game ends. Although the man couldn't quite understand what was happening, improving his stats was always a good thing. So he decided to enhance his strength. Strength is a unique attribute that combines all other attributes. He could now exert twice the ability of an ordinary person. Moreover, the most important thing is that when his strength reaches 30, he can unlock the nameless divine skill. But in the man's impression, strength is not an attribute that can be easily increased. He must continuously accumulate combat experience and training to improve it. Yet now, it can be enhanced so easily. If it continues to develop like this, it would be amazing. At this moment, an arrow flew straight toward the man, and the man dodged it by turning sideways. It seems the two have started to join forces, haven't they? This kind of thing happens often here. And that symbol belongs to the Turtle Guild, one of the top 10 guilds in Country H. It seems the two are in the same guild. Meanwhile, there are over 60 players left. The game is about to end. I didn't expect there to be so few people left now. If he can survive this attack, he will pass this match. And just as the two were chatting casually, the man checked the score. Although he only killed 4 targets, he was still ranked number 1. It looked like his first place position was secure. Just as the woman was about to attack him, a figure flashed by and instantly killed the woman on the spot. Perfect chance to test the strength of a 6 power level. At that moment, the warrior next to him trembled in fear. The next second, the man instantly appeared behind him. Then, he swung with all his strength, slashing towards the man's back. But unexpectedly, the armor was so tough. Then, the man was seen frantically slashing at one spot. With each strike, more and more followed. The armor eventually shattered into pieces. Mere armor. How could it possibly withstand me? After the man broke through the enemy's armor, 2 people were watching his every move on the screen at that moment. Even the head of human resources, Li Haiyan, was very surprised by this. Luckily, it didn't happen to Lin Jiaying. Otherwise, they might not have even kept the second place in the competition. However, the minister is curious if you could beat him in the next match. Although he said he would try to avoid men, the minister ordered him to face the challenge to gather more information. He looked at the man on the screen. Falling into thought, Xing Jihan seemed to have seen him somewhere before. Lin Jiaying is renowned for having an S-level talent. He is the rising star thoughtfully launched by the Divergent Guild. He was supposed to make a remarkable debut in the Jiangnan Bronze League. But unexpectedly, the appearance of a man changed everything. Everyone was baffled by this. How could a level 2 contestant possess such immense power? Who exactly is he? The scene shifts. The Jiangnan Bronze League is over. The experience gained from the match boosted him from level 3 to level 6. Then, the man allocated all 3 attribute points to strength. Meanwhile, the man earned a title, Tutorial Dominator, which adds 1 point to all attributes in the Bronze League and increases experience by 20%. Although it's only applicable in the Bronze League, the attributes seem quite good. Thanks to the title's attributes, the man's strength reached 10 points, enabling him to easily clear the Bronze League. The Silver upgrade battle will be unlocked after level 25, so he just needs to focus on the Bronze League. At that moment, he suddenly thought of something: class change. When reaching level 5, people can choose a basic profession. Job change grants non-professional players professional skills. At crucial moments, professions are divided into 4 types: warrior, archer, mage, and healer. In his previous life, the man chose to become a warrior. If the man chooses to become a warrior again, he can grow faster. But the appearance of the achievement store gives the man an additional choice. He can experience different professions and then, at the necessary moment, spend 10,000 achievement points to increase the profession card slot. In this way, warrior will no longer be the priority profession. So, the profession to choose this time is this. The scene shifts to the Jiangnan Bronze League, and the task this time will be defense. Protect the crystal and survive the damp conditions. The battle will continue until only 5 towers remain. At that moment, 2 blue lights appeared. They were an archer from the LK Guild, and a mage with good equipment but no guild. Now, all that's needed is the healer. Defense is a battle of attrition, so a healer's support is crucial. But the next moment, Lin Jiaying stood frozen, because a familiar face appeared in front of her. It was actually Xing Jihan. Looks like this is the defense battle. And 20 minutes ago, the man chose the healer profession. Though the window prompted that the profession didn't match the user, he still decisively pressed confirm, and his reason for choosing healer was only one. When choosing a support class, he could unlock the skill Holy Power. It was a key factor in obtaining another unique attribute. But that unique attribute is difficult to develop, because it cannot be improved through training, but requires a lot of performance points. Currently, performance points can only be used on the nameless divine skill. However, the man quickly solved this problem. He came up with a very reliable method. Meanwhile, the magician was loudly complaining. He thought that the man's shabby armor was not worthy of being in the same team as his expensive equipment. Although the archer tried hard to stop him from continuing, he was unappreciative. At that moment, the man suddenly lifted him up. Then, he forcefully threw him out of the tower. If you don't want to play, then don't play. Even without you, we can live just fine. After the man tossed him out of the tower, he no longer had his previous arrogance. Now, he was begging the man to spare him, willing to do anything for it. The kneeling man was named Jin Guihe, and there was a reason for his change in attitude. Because in this competition, the participants have a total of 3 lives. But at the very beginning, he lost 1 life due to the man's actions. Later during the conflict with the man, he lost the 2nd life. Now, he only has 1 life left. If he dies 1 more time, he will end up at the bottom of the competition. To avoid being last, he begged the man to spare him. Being last would result in a demotion punishment, and all the expensive skills he purchased would vanish. When the level doesn't match the skills are automatically deleted. At this moment, the man suddenly remembered that he seemed to be very good at fire magic. Of course, because fire magic is very effective against monsters. And currently, he is a level 15 mage. So he's sure the man won't easily give up such a valuable resource. Meanwhile, Lin Jiaying was lost in thought. Where had she seen him before? Then she remembered, this person's name was Jin Guihe. He was once a member of the top 10 guilds. He was a mage everyone had high hopes for. But after failing to advance 4 times in the silver promotion tournament, he began causing trouble everywhere. In the end, he became a loser. At that moment, the turtle crane suddenly made a proposition to the man. If the man apologized to him, then he would be willing to cooperate with the others. For a moment, there was a sudden silence all around. And in the next second, a familiar action once again appeared before everyone's eyes. You dare to ask me to apologize? Then the man suddenly grabbed him and tossed him into the air. Next, a swing sends him flying, and the wizard outside the tower, Golden Turtle Crane, is slain. The scene shifts to the neighboring wizard using fire magic. Just as Golden Turtle Crane said, fire is very effective against monsters. At this moment, everyone is in a dilemma and reproaches the man for his actions. Meanwhile, the man checks his window for a limited time quest. First place in the quest rewards 1,000 performance points. There is also a related quest: solo kill 1000 zombies for 3000 performance points. But with this little time, it's impossible to complete the task. But the man didn't want to give up the 3000 performance, so he fell into deep thought. At this moment, Lin Jiaying had already been observing the man for a while. She thought the man was just a self-centered guy. The Divergent Union had no reason to investigate him. Just then, the blonde man beside him prompted the man that if it continued like this, you would fight alone. Can I do these things? The man fell into thought again. Maybe he should be able to do it. Beside her, Lin Jiaying stated that the healer would stay at the back. She would take the front line. But the man said there was no need for that, because he could be at the front. And all he needed to do was protect the archer. At that moment, a gigantic bloodthirsty creature suddenly appeared before everyone. As the two prepared for battle, the man had already raised his staff. In the next second, a powerful thrust killed it on the spot. Even the two of them were shocked by this. This is actually the holy fire. Could it be divine power? Meanwhile, a swarm of zombies rushed towards the man. But the man dealt with them instantly. Even though he wasn't sure if he could do it, he decided to give it a try. Mission progress, 6 out of 1000. At this moment, the man suddenly exerted his strength. The next second, he rushed into the nest of corpses. Then he was seen swinging the long stick in his hand. He swiftly shuttled through the nest of corpses. In no time, he had killed 26 zombies. Blood zombies are immune to physical attacks. Only when encountering them does the man unleash some divine power, striking them down with one blow. Seeing this, even the blonde guy beside him became his little fan. Only Lin Jiaying was extremely shocked because the man could not only control the release of divine power with precision, but more importantly, every single one of his attacks was aimed at the monster's head. At that moment, 1/5 of the task was completed. And that just happened to meet the condition for upgrading divine power. Soon after, the news of the man's divine power upgrade came through. It seemed he guessed correctly. This was another way to level up divine power, and how to use it properly. The relic, when it first appeared, had an air of mystery that drove its price consistently higher. But after 10 years, humans ultimately did not discover its hidden value, and it became worthless. However, the man learned from Sophia that the relic could enhance the user's divine power. Although only in competition, he became a relic, because he held it for a long time, praying to gain divine power. However, the conditions for using each relic are different, and he knows that someone has been collecting those relics. At this moment, the man suddenly recalled that he might know that person. When he had just returned, the man once visited the Sword King's attic to investigate, and he was utterly shocked, because the floor was littered with relics that had lost their power. That's right, the one who had been collecting the relics all along was his sister. She had once fought side by side with the Sword King. She was hailed by many as the greatest hero. But that was all before his sister passed away. Meanwhile, the man noticed the steel rod nearby. A level 1 sacred relic, it absorbs divine power by striking the heads of evildoers. And it was precisely this that the man relied on to enhance his own divine power. However, the amount of divine power that could be absorbed now was almost depleted, but it was still quite good for fending off monsters. But Lin Jiaying beside him was quite shocked because, in her understanding, such an action couldn't be performed using a keyboard. Meanwhile, the blonde man suggested whether they should help those people. Just then, a zombie lunged at the blonde man. In the next second, a dazzling figure flashed by, and the monster was slain on the spot. At this moment, the man felt that she looked very familiar. Plum Blossom Sword, Lin Jiaying? Although she was expected to become the next Sword King. Unfortunately, she ultimately died at the hands of Yin Shizhen. Then she extended an invitation to the man. If they worked together now, they could achieve a higher rank. After checking the scores. So the man agreed to him. Then I'll leave this to you. Then the man leapt from the tower. Now let's unleash a big move. Then came the window prompt, completing the limited task, but just as expected. The related task was only about halfway done. And he realized that perhaps he wasn't strong enough yet. When he becomes stronger, he'll come back here to try again. However, I just don't know if this task will appear again. Lin Jiaying beside him looked utterly incredulous. She couldn't believe that a healer even lower level than her could achieve this. Could it be a bug? At this moment, the blonde man chose to exit the game, and the man should go back to get his reward. But Lin Jiaying called out to him. The strength he displayed in these 2 matches convinced her he was the talent the Divergent Guild needed, so he asked him for his number. But he quickly realized that he was being too abrupt. After all, who asks for a number right after meeting? However, the man responded that if it was about business, he had no interest. Besides, he had long forgotten his own number. If they met again, he'd tell her the number. Then, she turned and left. It was only at this moment that Lin Jiaying snapped out of it. Was she just rejected? The scene changes. At this moment, the man is slowly walking down the street. But no matter what, he can't remember his number. However, he was just accepted, right? Although the man could get his number first, the guild seems too conspicuous. Also, for now, he doesn't have any intention of joining the guild. Then, he checked his status. The window level went up by 2 levels, and he received 1,500 GP. Even though his divine power has improved nicely, this amount of GP can't buy any creatures. Looks like he still needs to rummage through his sister's place. The scene shifts. The man returned home, but the pair of shoes in front of him instantly triggered countless memories. Everyone has moments of regret in life. The man's greatest regret was not being able to protect him. In a past life, they relied on each other for survival. Although he spent his days drinking. But he never gave up on the man. Instead, he kept encouraging her to stay strong. However, the man didn't protect her well. That day became the moment she regretted most in her life. And now, the man saw her again. Long time no see, uncle. Inshurya is the daughter of his sister, and the Sword King. Didn't expect you'd return so soon from your trip. But he replied that he was the only one who cut the trip short. After all, ever since his father joined the new guard of the county, he only has his uncle left as a relative, so he is very worried about him. But hasn't your father contacted you? Although he did, he only told you Inshurya one thing. That is, he has fallen in love. For that, he is willing to abandon the entire country of H. Even his daughter. Upon hearing this, the man was extremely angry. But then he calmed down. After all, he is just such an irresponsible guy. The scene shifts, and the two are currently chatting. Li Haiyan believes that Xing Jihan is someone the union must recruit. Just then, a phone notification nearby catches his attention. Immediately, a live broadcast appears in front of them. Both of them are completely shocked at the moment, because the person streaming live is actually Xing Jihan. At the same time, he boldly announces to the audience that the Sword King is actually his brother-in-law. Then he slowly lifted his right foot. The next second, he suddenly exerted force. In an instant, the ground was shattered, creating a crack. At this moment, the man was staring at the symbol of the Sword King. While everyone was extremely shocked by this, he had already swung his fist. With just one strike, he completely destroyed the giant double sword statue. Next, he will state his stance on the Sword King's joining the Star Guard ceremony. But he did this for a reason, because Battle.net owns the world's largest media. Through viewers' clicks and attention, many achievement rewards can be obtained. And as the brother-in-law of the Sword King, he could undoubtedly sweep up all the rewards. Accompanied by a series of achievement completion notifications, just as expected. Yoon Se-jin also had his moments to shine. Meanwhile, a familiar black twin sword emblem caught his eye. This was the emblem of the Sword King's family. They were all avid fans of Sword King Yoon Se-jin. After the Sword King left Country H, they turned their hostility towards Sia. He believed it was his mistake that led to the Sword King's departure. If he could die, then the Sword King would surely return here. In the end, Shia met a tragic end at their hands. If you need someone to vent your anger on, I'm willing to be that person. Then, the man instantly shattered the statue behind him with a punch. The Sword King will never return. The man took out a phone from his pocket. Let me play it for you, the last conversation he had with his daughter after joining the Star Guard. Just as the man said, Yoon Se-jin abandoned the entire H country for a woman, even his daughter. Then Yoon Se-ah began to speak. Hello, my name is Yoon Se-ah. I am the daughter of Sword King Yoon Se-jin. Although the Sword King left this palace to him, he cannot accept the property left behind by such a person. So he decided to donate it to the country, hoping that the nation can use this opportunity to cultivate more outstanding players. He will explain the details later. Just 30 minutes ago, Yoon Se-ah looked completely puzzled. She didn't understand why the man wanted to donate everything that was hard to come by. Although the man found it difficult to explain. Only he knew that after Yoon Se-jin joined Gukuk, he helped Gukuk destroy H country, which enraged everyone in H country. As a result, the country began to confiscate all of Yoon Se-jin's property, leaving Yoon Se-ah homeless with nowhere to go, even receiving threats from the Sword King's family. In the end, it cost him his life. Since they would eventually lose this place, he thought it better to gain people's support in the name of a donation. That way, it would also provide protection for Yoon Se-ah. Even though she didn't understand why the man wanted to do this, she eventually chose to trust her uncle, because she felt that her confident uncle had returned. Just as expected, the Sword King family's hostility began to target the man. But to ensure everything went perfectly, he started explaining again. Yoon Se-jong, I believe what I did was right. On the surface, it seems you're doing this because of a woman, but only I know you fled to June Nation. It's just the fear of not succeeding in Country H. Yoon Sejin, you're outdated. Now that you're staying in Jungak, just enjoy the rest of your days. Because I'll soon meet you and destroy everything you have. Right after the man gave his warning to the Sword King, Yoon Shura was filled with worry, because the man's words caused a global sensation. But more than that, he was curious why the man seemed to suddenly become a different person. After all, I've already experienced death once, so how could I still be the same as before? Just then, the doorbell rang, catching their attention. Who could it possibly be at a time like this? Meanwhile, the Sword King had already learned everything that had happened. The scene shifts, and an older man is seen visiting. The visitor is Park Yoon-shik, manager of the Battle.net department. Since the Sword King left, he had been taking good care of the two. And clearly, the man had already anticipated his arrival. So he indicated that he should speak his mind without beating around the bush. You've come this time to ask me to withdraw the donation to the Sword King's palace, right? After all, if the state accepts this donation, it's equivalent to admitting that the Sword King will never return. Even the elder did not expect that the man in front of him would change so drastically. And as the man said, they have not completely given up on the Sword King. Therefore, he suggested to the man to adopt a trust management approach, which is to transfer ownership for others to manage. The condition was that after the Sword King returned, he would transfer ownership to his name. It would be even better if they could continue living here. Then, he handed a contract to the man. Only in this way could both parties achieve a win-win situation. And the man expressed his understanding of them. However, before confirming, he had to agree to one condition from the man. The scene shifts, and the arena is already buzzing with people. At this moment, a figure appears in front of everyone. He landed on the ground with a graceful pose. He is none other than the streamer, Radiant Gold. Although he is loved by many viewers, his behavior is very despicable. As a player of gold rank, he voluntarily lowered his rank to the bronze tier, using his immense strength to toy with the bronze competitors. Just as he decided on his first victim, Xing Jihan suddenly appeared in front of him. He had long been curious about him, so he stepped forward to conduct an interview. But the man didn't pay any attention to him. Instead, he checked his own status window. At that moment, his window notified him that the Sword King family had issued a bounty mission to kill Xing Jihan, with a reward of 2,000 GP. Seeing the golden streamer unmoved, the Sword King family kept increasing the bounty. Finally, he accepted the mission for the price of 50,000 GP. Alright, leave the rest to me. Then he gathered strength in his legs. In the next second, he flashed behind the man. At that moment, the man turned and swung his club. The tremendous force instantly knocked the sword out of his hand. Then he quickly drew a dagger from his chest. In the next second, a figure flashed by and killed him on the spot. Player Xing Jihan has earned the First Blood achievement, rewarded with 100 achievement points. It seems my cooking skills have declined a bit. Although the golden light was slain by the man with one sword, the next second, it revived again. The Resurrection Cross can revive a user once, but not in the National League. When he reappeared in a grand manner, the man was already behind him. With a slash, he even managed a double kill. He hadn't seen anyone use this weapon for a long time because it has a fatal flaw. But speaking of which, today should be very busy since it's an official match. So there will be an audience watching. And this time, the audience is the elves. Their presence makes the man very disgusted because they accelerated the downfall of humanity. Although the man wants to deal with them immediately, he must first solve the problems in front of him. He slowly gazes at the crowd. And in the next second, everyone scatters in fear. Because he is an existence more terrifying than the golden streak of light. Looking at the two sacred relics in hand, to receive more tasks and rewards, he could only choose to keep fighting. At that moment, a task appeared ahead. Eliminate all the goblins present. That suits me perfectly. The scene shifts, and the man swiftly moves to launch an assault on the goblins. In the next second, the goblins are struck with a severe blow. A silhouette swiftly passed by, killing the goblin instantly. At that moment, the artifact reacted ahead, indicating he knew how to use treasure hunting. By striking the enemy's head with a stick and then stabbing the heart with a dagger. Although learning how to use the artifact was quite beneficial, it was clear the man wasted too much time. However, things weren't over yet. The Goblin King suddenly appeared in front of the man. But the next second, the man knocked it out with one blow. Then he raised the dagger in his hand and struck directly towards his heart. Successfully killing the Goblin King rewards 500 achievement points. The man obtained the Divine Power Evil Gods cooking set, descending from Earth level to level 1. Although his level decreased, the man can still absorb divine power from it. However, to win this match, He must focus his attention on the players. Since they are unwilling to approach me, then I shall approach them. Meanwhile, at this moment, the golden light is furious. Because the audience is discussing how he's just like a loser, but only he knows that things aren't as simple as they imagine. Because the goblin's combat ability is at least 35 and above. Yet the man can easily take them down. And the Bronze League's ability value is capped at around 25. The man is undoubtedly a dark horse. At this moment, screams are coming from the screen. And the next second, the golden light stands there in shock. Because a one-sided situation is occurring in the competition arena. The player is being killed by Xing Jihan at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a moment, the man killed all the contestants in front of him. At this point, the relic's level dropped from 1 to F. Killing 10 people in the Colosseum rewards 5,000 achievement points. Although he gained a large number of achievement points and divine power, it was far from enough for the man. At that moment, a quest appeared before him. An epic quest: find the Shadow Queen in the Colosseum and provoke her. Who would have thought an epic quest would appear in the Bronze League? The completion rewards 50,000 achievement points. Note: the constellation is very interested in the Shadow Queen. The constellation is a divine presence in the battle network. If you complete the task they assign, then he could gain a special ability from it. However, this is at least a task that appears only in the Diamond League matches. Since the opportunity is in front of him, he is not going to miss it. If he can get one constellation on his side, then other constellations might also take an interest. But among so many spirits, can he find the Shadow Queen? After the man single-handedly took first place in this round, the major media began to report on him eagerly. This was the first record set since Ji Insure left. In an instant, he gained a lot of fans. Those who were once fans of the Sword King all became supporters of the man, while the Golden Streamer became the subject of ridicule. His reputation was getting worse and worse. But he didn't care at all, because he had also become a loyal fan of Xing Jihan and fantasized about becoming his exclusive editor. Meanwhile, the two of them were chatting idly. They were wondering whether to accept sponsorships. At that moment, the man fell into deep thought. Although this epic level quest seemed relatively simple, but finding him in the crowd is next to impossible. Just then, he asked the man if he needed help. Because whenever things don't go well, his uncle always looks like this. Then the man told him the task. He needs to find the Shadow Queen in the Colosseum, though he only knows she's in the audience. The other men know nothing. Although he doesn't know much, he'll find her through the replay. I'll leave it to you then. The scene shifts, and the man is seen returning to the room. He then opens his status window. It's time to perform this action. Adding a new job slot. The man used his achievement points to purchase a job slot. In this way, he can add a new job. This time, the job he is choosing is Mage. As the man presses the confirm button, a surge of purple energy instantly envelopes him. The next second, he could feel a type of energy different from divine power surging in his heart. And there was a reason he chose the profession of a mage this time. Because only by having both healer and mage professions could he obtain a unique hidden attribute. That is, Force. And all this information was learned from Baron. Before returning, Baron would often, after getting drunk, confide in the man. What he was most proud of was possessing a special attribute. That is, Force, which is obtained when divine power and magic power combine. A unique attribute was born. Of course, no one else but him could master it. Because he is the only human with two professions. And the Force contains the power to manipulate space. Although in the past, Baron was the only human with the Force. Things are different now. Because the man will become the second being to master the Force, even though Baron's control of it was terrible. But he still secured his position as the world's #1, relying solely on this unique attribute. To change the fate of the Earth's destruction, the man must master this power no matter what. For this, he must endure the painful process of concentrating both divine power and magic in his hands. At the same time, a ball of red energy is slowly forming in his hands. Just when he thought he had succeeded, in the next moment, a powerful force sent him flying dozens of meters away. In his very first experiment, he had already exhausted all the magic in his body. Yet he had no way of keeping both energies concentrated in his hands for long. At this moment, he suddenly thought of something. Even if he couldn't gather two energies at the same time, if they were synthesized in the body, starting with the divine power from the upper dantian, mixing with the magic power residing in the middle dantian, and finally stabilized by the power from the lower dantian, then the initial form of the force would appear. All that remains is to compress it. At that moment, a surge of red energy burst from within him. He was trying to unify the three dantians. Warning: exceeding player's tolerance range, life is in danger. Meanwhile, Xia seemed to sense something unusual. so she hurriedly ran towards her uncle's room. But the failure to unify the Dantians was actually expected. Although the man had tried to compress and unify them by force, the conditions for merging Dantians are very stringent. He needed not only to master the use of 3 different energies but also to have their values exceed 100. If forced to unify them, one might lose their life. At that moment, Shia suddenly opened the man's door. When he asked why he screamed, he brushed it off, saying it was a headache. In the past, Shia was very afraid, scared something would happen to his uncle. But after confirming his uncle was fine, he said he would continue looking for the Shadow Queen and then turn to leave. It seems the unification of the 3 Dantians was clearly a failure, because he lacks experience and level. But it's not a big problem. After all, he got what he wanted. Although he couldn't unify the 3 Dantians, he merged divine power and magic to gain strength. The bond between the 3 forces is very weak. At this moment, the man noticed something strange. Why is the initial value of strength 12? A prompt from the window indicated that martial power and strength values are shared. If that's the case, then increasing one attribute will also boost the other. This is truly amazing. Just by combining 2 abilities, it already has such an effect. If he combined 3 abilities, who knows how much more powerful it would be? But for now, it's clear that he still can't do that. However, since he's already gained the desired attribute, it's time to try using magic. But clearly, he's forgotten that he currently has no magic power at all. The scene shifts, and the man is waking up from his dreams. After a night of absorption, the man's divine power has increased to 10 points. Nowadays, he can no longer absorb relics below grade C. Meanwhile, Sia, after a night's effort, finally found a clue about the Shadow Queen. Someone discovered some new species through the vision talent, and uploaded the images online. In the footage, a dark elf caught their attention, and he currently has the highest possibility of being the Shadow Queen. Although they found some new information, the man believes things aren't that simple. Sia then indicated that she would continue organizing the information tomorrow. Even the men were full of praise for her professionalism. However, as he looked at the shattered photo frame beside him, the man fell into deep thought because just 2 days ago, they learned an important piece of information. The Sword King's new woman is named Shuei, and she has a talent of level 3 nice. She is an incredibly beautiful woman. Do you mean that the Sword King could be enchanted by this woman's talent? Of course, we can't rule out that possibility. Then, the uncle advised the man to be cautious of this woman, because they speculate the woman's talent should be a type of mental control. After all, before the Sword King, there were many rising stars, suddenly joining the county and state. If this talent has no usage limits, then she would surely confuse powerful players again. And from that day on, the blue man has been investigating information about Shueha, but has made no progress. If what the uncle said is true, then he must be fully prepared, because they might have already started taking action. Right after the man decided to be on guard against the enemy nation, the scene shifts to today, where the auction of the former king of Jian is taking place. At this moment, the two are dressed formally, heading to the event. Meanwhile, Shurya is showing signs of nervousness, but the man indicates that she need not be overly nervous. Just like the last live broadcast, she should just show her true self. We haven't done anything wrong, so there's no need to care about others' opinions. Moments later, they arrived at the venue. At that moment, an uncle next to them called out. He said everything was ready, and the man could start the auction. However, he was quite surprised by this, because he didn't expect the man's proposal to be holding a Sword King auction. Now he finally realized the man's goal was to lure the giant nation here. That's right. The man's goal from the beginning was this network. Yin Shizhen's exclusive connector and all his combat data are what the giant nation wants to obtain. And the giant nation will do everything possible to seize it based on the current information. Yin Shizhen will definitely not appear on site, so this is a great opportunity for people to face reality. Even the uncle next to him was very surprised, not expecting the man to change so much. This is their last chance to change the narrative, so the man reminded him to make sure reporters pay extra attention to the new guard's position. Just then, an argument broke out not far away, and Shia immediately recognized it was his aunt and uncles. Although they strongly urged Shia not to auction off the Sword King's belongings, he saw right through their intentions. They just wanted to take advantage of the Sword King's reputation to make a big profit, and they had no right to interfere in what Shia did. After that, he turned and walked into the auction. The scene shifts, and the two had just entered the event. They were immediately photographed by the journalists. He just gently lifted his finger. The next second, the sound of countless cameras burst into silence. Meanwhile, the man stood on stage and began to speak. The auction will now begin. This auction features 3 items. First is a connector for film and television professionals. It can reduce 99% of the pain experienced in games and includes combat data. Next is Yoon Shurjin analyzing his data. Finally, research data on top players from other countries. At this moment, everyone began to discuss. It seemed like they didn't want to give up on anything. After all, high-level player data is not something easily obtainable. At this moment, a right hand slowly raised. He was Takeda Kazuo, from the new defense squad of the county. He expressed his willingness to spend 5 billion to bid on everything here, and also the opportunity to speak with Yunxia privately. But he was rejected by the man. If there's something important, just say it here. After all, the current atmosphere is not suitable for a private conversation. And at this moment, he showed a hint of hesitation. If you continue to show hostility, that would be very dangerous. He is a bodyguard named Shadow. Although he can't compare to the Sword King, he is still an outstanding player. The man, however, was just extremely curious. Could this guy be imitating Yoon Se-jin? Just as Shadow pointed his sword at the man. The next second, a punch came straight at him. He was beaten on the spot, leaving him at a loss. Just as he was about to draw his sword to attack, the man raised his hand to stop him. After all, this is a live broadcast being shown to the entire world. You probably don't want to recklessly wield your long sword in front of everyone, right? At the same time, Takeda Kazuo apologized to the man. However, there's one thing that he must clarify in advance: the 5 billion to buy everything. This includes a private conversation with Yunxia, and he needs to know how she feels about it. After all, he is the heir to the Sword King's fortune. So, the host of this auction should be Shurya. And the topic of this conversation is related to forgetfulness. Such conditions are irresistible to anyone. However, Shurya refused on the spot. After all, he is completely uninterested in news about his father, and believes it's best to follow his uncle's advice. Although disappointed by the refusal, he was still willing to spend 5 billion to buy everything here. Then he took an envelope from his pocket. This is the last letter written by the Sword King to Yin Shurya. Staring at the Sword King's letter, Shia was lost in thought at the moment. At the same time, Kazuo Takeda was urging the man to quickly sign the contract. But the man was caught in a dilemma. Before his return, Kazuo Takeda was banned from entering the nation. Because he was very skilled at recruiting players from other countries, he was called the disaster of the prefecture. He might be connected to Mizutsuru, so the man had to remain vigilant. But the current situation was looking bad. If the items of the Sword King are taken by the county, it will surely cause public dissatisfaction. At this moment, Shia's speech caught everyone's attention. The Sword King heard he donated to the Sword King's palace, although he didn't know why Shia did it. But that was the last of his wealth left to him. For this reason, he hoped Shia could make good use of it. Also, their father-daughter relationship ends here. There will be no further contact in the future. It seems it truly is his handwriting. The man fell into deep thought. That woman's ability must be real. Although the man despises Yoon Se-jin, he is at least a competent and reliable father. How could someone like him abandon his daughter for a woman? Then, Sie ripped the letter into pieces on the spot. She told Takeda Kazuo to convey that he was very pleased to sever the father-daughter relationship. While he was troubled about how to handle the scraps of paper, the man raised his hand and gathered the pieces in the air. As he clenched his fist, the next moment, a flame consumed them entirely. Everyone was shocked because he not only had the skills of a warrior, but also possessed magic and divine power. Even Kazuo Takeda, who was nearby, showed great sympathy. This guy must be the talent our country needs. The next second, everyone swarmed towards the man. They all hoped he would join their guild. While he was bewildered, Shia suddenly collapsed to the ground. What on earth is going on? When he anxiously asked about the situation, he simply stated that he was just acting. This would help his uncle leave the crowd. After confirming that Shia was indeed fine, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. He then announced to everyone that the auction would end due to his niece's discomfort. Immediately after, he supported Shia and headed towards the door. At that moment, Kazuo Takeda apologized to him, and hoped he would give him a chance to have a proper conversation. But in the next second, the card in his hand suddenly shattered. And that was his answer. At this moment, however, Takeda Kazuo's face was filled with sorrow, because he was certain the man had just used an immense power. Although he is still just a bronze player now, in the near future, he will undoubtedly become the strongest existence. The scene changes, and with Shia's help, the two quickly escape from the venue. At this moment, a notification appeared ahead. Kazuo Takeda donated 10,000 GP. I didn't expect him to donate 10,000 GP. This guy really doesn't give up. At the same time, a voice called out to them. Li Haiyan and Li Jiaying were walking toward them. Then, the man introduced himself. He was Li Haiyan. head of the Human Resources Department of the Divergent Guild. He was happy to meet the man. But the man felt that he seemed very familiar. Whether it's his demeanor or his confident attitude. It all felt familiar to the man. At that moment, a casual gesture from Li Haiyan made the man freeze in place. He definitely knew this person. Then the man murmured, "When the world is full of potential, it becomes hard to ignore him." This is a famous saying by Dostoevsky. Although he was a great writer, he was also a notorious gambler. And you like this phrase. Right now, Li Jiaying suddenly stood in front of her. Then she loudly questioned her, "Why do you know the lady's motto?" It seems she guessed right. In the previous life, she was Baron William's Agent Zero. Although she was always addicted to alcohol, because of her unique talent. He was promoted to president of the second guild. The training originally only affected the experience buff, but after the beginner tutorial ended, the skill's scope expanded to all areas. Among all players with training talent, Zero is the strongest. From the Plum Blossom Sword to Zero, it seems the Divergent Guild is indeed very powerful. Meanwhile, Li Haiyan lightly coughed twice, signaling that the jokes should end here. Then she invited the man, saying the Divergent Guild needs talents like you. Why not find a time to have a detailed conversation? It looks like someone finally wants uncle. At this moment, Li Haiyan was immersed in the joy of success. Watch closely, Jiaying. This is how she controls men. But the next second, the man said he had long forgotten the number. Everyone was momentarily stunned. Meanwhile, Xia thought her uncle was playing hard to get. So she decided to cooperate with him. It seemed his niece wasn't feeling well, so he decided to leave first. However, he could take a business card and contact them if needed. Then he turned around and left. Meanwhile, Li Jiaying was trembling very badly. Because it's really hard to hold back from laughing. Not long after the auction event had passed, the man arrived again at the Jiangnan Bronze League. This time, the task was defense. But at this moment, he seemed somewhat exhausted. Because Shirya mistakenly thought the man like Li Haiyan and believed she had ruined everything. Although that wasn't the case. The man didn't know how to explain it to her. But even he didn't expect to see Zero again in such a way. Before returning, he was a true gambler. And because they shared similar experiences, their relationship became much closer. Although he liked to place many bets on football during his free time, he hasn't won a single match so far. Because he never analyzes the player's talents. However, the scar on his face piqued the man's curiosity. Hasn't he ever thought about getting rid of it? He affirmed that he hadn't. After all, it's the price of making a deal with the devil. Then he asked the man, why did he only become stronger now? If the man had been this powerful back then, the H nation wouldn't have faced such devastation, and his friends wouldn't have died. Aside from the fact that both are from H nation, the two share many similarities. One of them is the guilt of failing to protect the most important people, and the hatred they have for their own weakness. Meanwhile, the online users seem to have noticed something different about the man. Because he tightly gripped a saw-blade sword, a C-class holy sword, the Uruk tenfold horse cutter. But because it is extremely heavy, it's also very cheap. However, for the man, this doesn't seem to be a problem. With the man's continuous swings, he has now fully adapted to its weight. At this moment, the online viewers started to cheer. They said they wanted to see the man's status window. As the number of subscribers increases, this kind of request will probably become more common. However, the man hasn't yet completed the subscription-related achievement. So, he decided that once the subscriber count reaches 200,000, he will reveal his status window. Or if he doesn't get first place in the upcoming competitions, he will reveal his status window on the spot. Meanwhile, 3 blue lights descended right beside the man. At this moment, the man was quite surprised as to why 3 people appeared simultaneously. Golden Light and an unknown mage. And Diego Makid. This was the first time the man saw Chi in person. Before the return, he was a top player, but the man noticed something strange. Because he was a healer, and there were already a warrior and a mage here. So he must be an archer. But he clearly remembered that before the return, he was a mage. So why has he become like this now? Meanwhile, the mage on the side already deeply hated the man. Because of what happened earlier, he lost a valuable skill. At this moment, he received a window prompt. The Sword King family issued a quest. Destroy the crystal and stop the holy letter. First reward, 50,000 GP. At this moment, a prompt for the start of the match was heard. Mahid kicked off the ball first. The offense began, and at the same time, he signaled to the man to cast a buff-type spell on them. Although previously he couldn't use it due to insufficient divine power, now he can completely do it. Accompanied by his chanting and casting of spells, everyone's attributes were enhanced. At this moment, the man asked the mage, will you play the game properly this time? Of course, after all, Ignoring what the man says will get you thrown under the tower. Then I'll leave this to you. Then the man suddenly leaped and jumped off the high tower. Just as everyone was feeling very puzzled by this. At this moment, the mage could no longer suppress his inner anger. This time, he wanted to see just how long he could endure. Meanwhile, faced with the enemies before him, the blue figure immediately used fire magic. After all, this was magic awakened with the fire attribute. So even when facing this group of enemies, it was no problem at all. Accompanied by a surge of magical power. In an instant, all the enemies were engulfed in blue flames. Immediately, the man swung the giant sword in his hand towards the ground. In the next second, the enemy in front of him was completely eliminated. Even those present found it unbelievable. Who exactly is Xingjihan? At this moment, a blood zombie rushed towards the man. But then he was stunned and unable to move. As expected, the power to manipulate space is incredibly strong. In the absolute domain, anything that enters the domain, their actions will be controlled by the user. Although others are unaware of this power, the man understands it well. Because Baron Williams often trains with him. Through training, the man gradually understood the power's abilities. Then, the man wrapped flames around the giant sword, and immediately swung it forward with great force. In an instant, the fierce blue flames swept across the entire land. With 3 attributes, he has become unbeatable in the Bronze League. This time, he's determined to achieve the feat of killing 1,000 enemies. The mission unfolds as a figure weaves through the crowd of monsters. At this moment, the man has only one thing in his eyes, completing the mission. Even the 2 people watching from the side are utterly astonished. This guy is insanely strong. At this moment, some viewers noticed that something seemed off with Jean Geha. So they signaled Jean Se Liuguang to point the camera at him. But in the next second, they froze in place. Because Jean Geha was using fire magic, slowly walking toward the crystal. Then he started hurling insults at the man. Not only mocking him for being orphaned, he even dragged Sia into it. The man could no longer stay calm. Is this a death wish? When he saw Sia again upon returning, the man remembered those unbearable memories. At Sia's last moment before death, to hide the harm caused by the Sword King's family, he was wrapped in bandages, collapsing into the man's arms. However, at this moment, he had long lost any warmth. This was the man's greatest regret in life, but he was helpless to change it. So, when he returned again, he made up his mind. This would never happen again. Because he would protect everything about Sia. When he gained the subordinate attribute, he noticed something strange. He could use a nameless divine skill. However, because his strength level hadn't reached 30 yet, so he could only imitate him. However, in mastering history, he indeed felt a sensation similar to the nameless divine skill. At the same time, the man instantly entered a state. At this moment, he was imagining an electric current emitting from his footsteps. In the next second, countless currents burst forth around him. And he was about to transform into lightning at this moment, a stride that could break the sky. The sky thunder step. Just as Jean Geha was about to destroy the crystal, the appearance of a golden stream of light stopped everything. Although he signaled not to meddle in others' business. To gain more subscribers, Golden Stream insisted he would intervene. And in the next second, Golden Turtle Crane had already gathered a massive fireball. Then he hurled it straight towards the Crystal Palace ahead. At this critical moment, a soccer ball blocked his attack. It turned out to be Diego Marquet. He deeply despised actions that disrupt a fair game. He even hated those who insult teammates, so he had to stop what Golden Turtle Crane was doing. Hearing this, the Golden Turtle Crane was immediately furious. But in the next second, the man had already appeared behind him. It seems you have a lot to say. At this moment, he was already scared out of his wits. Yet when he tried to speak, he found that no matter what, he couldn't open his mouth. Because the man had already sealed his lips. The man originally intended to take him away immediately, but he changed his mind. After all, the connector can reduce a lot of pain. Even if you die, it only results in a loss of level. This is common knowledge that everyone knows. But from now on, the man will tell him about a different world. Then, he saw the man extend his right hand towards Jean Geha. At this moment, Jean Geha had already lost all his skills. Although he didn't want to lose levels, it seemed he had angered the man. The next second, a strong wave of pain instantly filled his entire body, making him unable to speak due to the intense pain. Why are you already crying out in pain? I haven't even started yet. At this moment, Jean Geha has already fallen into endless pain. But usually, using a connector to fight doesn't cause such a huge reaction. And at this time, Moss Hyde reminds him to pay attention to the thing in the man's hand. He has been treating Jean Geha all along. Could it be a side effect? Simply put, it's like a bug. If you continue to treat it while it's in an abnormal state, an overload reaction will occur. When an overload happens, the body bypasses the connector and takes 100% of the damage. And he is very curious about how the man managed to do it. Once missed, only a few who have mastered martial arts can do it. Channeling one's energy into the enemy's body to achieve tearing muscles and breaking bones. At this moment, Jean Grey he still hasn't figured out why the connector failed. In the next second, the man killed him with a single strike, and then news of Jean Grey he's death came. At the same time, the man looked towards the resurrection point nearby. Even the golden glow was stunned by the scene before them. The scene shifted, and a familiar image appeared before everyone. However, this time, before he could beg for mercy, news of his death came again from the front. It seems that more adjustments to strength are needed next time. In the next second, Jean Grey he resurrected again. At this moment, the man was slowly walking towards him. A guy like you needs to pay the price for your actions. Just then, a notification came in showing Sia donated 10,000 GP to the man. At that moment, he hoped his uncle would stop. After all, the most important thing right now was the competition. After a moment of contemplation, the man decided to end his punishment here. But he wanted to know exactly who gave him the courage to do this. At this point, Jean Grey was already so frightened that he lost composure and spilled everything. A person named Sword King 898 family posted a task. Completing the task of destroying the crystal would earn a reward of 50,000 GP. But the man thought it was very strange. After all, a normal person wouldn't spend 50,000 GP to post a task. So, it's very likely that it's a group. Then, the man grabbed Golden Turtle Crane. You should really thank Shia. She spared you from those punishments. He then threw him out of the tower. Player Golden Turtle Crane is down. Golden Turtle Crane has been eliminated from this match. Next, the man should focus on completing the task. After all, if this hadn't happened, a wise man would have completed the task long ago. And when he checks his status window, he finds the task is already completed. Could it have been caused by the lightning? The lightning generated during the jump wiped out all nearby enemies. It seems to be an uncontrollable power that caused all this. Ultimately, he wasn't using a nameless divine skill. This is truly shameful. It looks like I need to practice more. Then the man expressed his gratitude to Mahid. He was thankful that Mahid protected the crystal and promised to repay this kindness. However, he needed to speak privately with him for a moment. But just then, a violent tremor shook the entire arena. The man was puzzled by this. Suddenly, a giant beast appeared before them. At that moment, everyone felt the beast was filled with ominousness, accompanied by the creature's roar. That guy is actually devouring zombies. At the same time, the monster spits out several clumps of mud. In the next second, new monsters are born from the mud. It was only then that the Golden Light realized that these are monsters that only appear in the Golden League. They can disassemble flesh and reassemble it into new monsters. He is the Flesh Demon Hero. But why is he here? Could it be because of a special mission? A special mission? Without the help of crystals, to deal with the origin of zombies too. Clearing the Flesh Demon Hero, the man was utterly confused at this moment. A prompt from ahead. You have completed the task of defending 10 towers. An additional task has been added to stop the Flesh Golem. Everyone nearby is shocked that there's an extra task in the Bronze League. Stop the Flesh Golem army created by the destroyer Black Hand. Using the blessing of the crystals can narrow the power gap with the enemy. You don't really intend to complete this task, do you? These guys are tough in the Gold League. Even though the task seems impossible, the man still wants to give it a try. After all, besides achievement points, there are actually additional rewards. When this happens, it is enough to indicate that this is at least an epic level quest. Just as everyone was discussing how to deal with these monsters, the man gestured for them not to take action. Then he slowly walked towards the monster with the holy sword in hand. The Flesh Demon is a monster with an immortal body. Only by destroying its core can it be killed. But because it has a huge body and a hard shell, making it difficult to kill. More importantly, it is a gold-level monster. At the same time, the man murmured, "You two step aside." The next second, the man rushed towards the monster at lightning speed. By the time they came to their senses, only a deep footprint was left on the ground. As the man slowly raised the holy sword in his hand. The most basic technique of the nameless divine skill is the 3 talents and 5 extremes. Heaven, earth, and man are the fundamental elements of the nameless divine skill. Based on this foundation, it possesses the force of Mount Tai pressing down on the top. At this moment, a slash fell. It struck down the enemy on the spot. The player even defeated the Flesh Demon statue. The 4th tower mission is completed. As the man swung his sword to slay the Flesh Demon statue, the golden stream of light at this moment felt very complex emotions. Fear, despair, anticipation, and longing. All these emotions intertwined, ultimately forming respect. It was the first time he felt this way since he was born. That man is destined to be a top player, and he wants to document everything about him. Meanwhile, the man suddenly appeared in front of them. From this moment, his connection with Mahad began. The other teams, in sheer terror, were killed by the monster in one blow. In no time, only the man and his group remained in the arena. It seems the mission rewards were pretty good, with experience points and GP tripled. Then the man suggested to Mahad that they should talk again sometime, as he wanted to share something about talent. But he looked puzzled. However, the man just told him it was related to magic, and he'd explain more when there was a chance. Was he suggesting I change my profession to a mage? If it were someone else, he might not care. But he even demonstrated incredibly powerful abilities. Perhaps there's a suitable profession for him after all. Then they agreed to have a detailed discussion when an opportunity arose. Even though the golden streamer also wanted to join them, he was refused by the man. Immediately, he turned around and left. The scene shifts, and the man receives his mission reward. He gets the next mission hint, an additional task, Disciple's Trail, will open in the Silver League. Though he obtained a crystal shard, the man is very disappointed. The divine blessing in the crystal is an advanced skill used only by saints. It can enhance all abilities by 50%. This is an essential skill in top-tier leagues. But this thing is limited to matches below the Silver League. Meanwhile, his level has already reached 13. Although he still needs to level up about 12 levels to join the Silver League, currently, his attributes are unmatched. Just as he felt puzzled, the holy sword beside him resonated. Immediately, divine power slowly gathered within the man. Strangely, the man's attributes did not improve. At that moment, the holy sword warned that it couldn't withstand the injected power. The device would be destroyed, as it seemed that the 3 newly injected energies had gone out of control. In order to prevent worse consequences, the man must absorb this energy back into his body. Meanwhile, Kazuo Takeda is complaining that the plan failed again, and he formally issued a mission to the Kanu family 898. He intended to take this opportunity to see the man's status window. Unfortunately, he failed. It would have been great to succeed just once. It seems he has to keep a low profile for a while. Even though Kazuo Takeda knows the man is a rare talent, but his superior relies on facts to make decisions. So if Kazuo Takeda wants to recruit him, he must gain access to the man's status window, and provide information through the window. To prove his value, it seems like it's time to use special methods. Just like treating Jian Wangmei. Clearly received a 5 billion remittance, but can only drive a beat-up car to school, even getting into trouble because of it. Right after the energy went out of control, the man decisively chose to absorb it. After a brief struggle. At this moment, the man finally calmed this energy. Meanwhile, a notification appeared indicating an increase in strength by 1 point. Now his strength level has reached 18. And at this moment, because the strength level exceeded 17, from now on, the man can only absorb divine power from relics of a certain level and above. This is really excessive, considering the relic's value is too expensive. Looks like he shouldn't expect to enhance divine power for a while. Just as the man was thinking this, Shia announced that he had already received a payment of 5 billion. But why do you look like this? Even though he said nothing happened, Shia didn't believe him and proceeded to treat his wounds. I really have no way to handle you. The scene shifts, and they go to a barbecue restaurant for dinner. It's the man's first proper meal since he returned. Shia believes they should at least have a meal together, because he's going back to school. After all, as the student council president, if I keep taking breaks, it would look really bad, and the day to receive a gift is approaching. It was only then that he remembered August 22nd was in Shia's 18th birthday, and also the moment to receive his blessing and talent. Although he hoped to gain a good talent to change those bad situations, in the end, he only received a sigh. At that moment of sacrifice, Shurya, who had been strong for so long, finally broke down. If you were to tell him just like that, he'd definitely be very disappointed. So, a man can only gradually lower his expectations. But is it true that you have to go back to school tomorrow? Shurya confirms this. So starting tomorrow, he'll drive Shurya to school. Although Shurya feels a bit puzzled by his uncle's actions, he eventually agrees. The scene shifts, and the two are standing there stunned, because the underground garage is completely empty. So many supercars were parked here, and now they're all gone. Then they suddenly remembered, could it have been dealt with by them? Just as they were at a loss, a shabby car nearby caught the man's attention. This was the car of the pressuring mother, so those people had no right to deal with it. Then the man immediately started the car. Although the car was quite old, it seemed to still be usable. Moments later, they arrived at the BattleNet Academy. At this moment, a big guy was seen angrily shouting at them to move the car immediately. Even though the man knew the shabby car would attract attention, he didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Then he slowly walked toward the car. Watch your words, he's also the student's guardian. At that moment, the two people nearby realized that the person in front of them was Xing Jihan. So they took a picture and uploaded it online. It instantly sparked a lot of discussion among netizens. On the other side, Li Haiyan gave instructions to Li Jiaying. They were about to head to the Zhanwang Academy. Then they started grooming and dressing up. After all, last time Xing Jihan actually rejected his invitation, this time he must regain face. Just you wait, Xing Jihan. He just appeared in the competition arena and made everyone awestruck. Because he once single-handedly killed a gold-level monster. And now appearing here is simply a dimension-reducing attack. Just as the man and the big guy were about to clash. The next second, he punched straight at the man. At this moment, everyone looked shocked. Because the huge fist stopped right in front of the man's nose. He originally thought of struggling, but found he couldn't even open his mouth. The man raised his hand with a wave, then he fell straight to the ground. He began to scold him, saying as a student's guardian, he was so rude. Even if he couldn't be a good role model, he shouldn't be so crude. At that moment, a voice from the side called out to Yin Xia. And he turns out to be Xia's classmate, Kim Hee-soo. It seems like they have a pretty good relationship. But upon seeing Xia actually riding such a shabby little car, he immediately stated that he would personally pick her up after school and take her home. At this moment, the man felt a bit puzzled. Does Xia have such a good friend? It all feels a bit strange. A moment later, when Li Haiyan and others arrived here, but he found that Xing Jihan had already left. At this moment, he was grumbling about his dissatisfaction, because he was afraid that Xing Jihan would join other guilds. Meanwhile, a live broadcast of Xing Jihan competing appeared ahead. He instantly had an idea. From now on, he would keep a close eye on him. The scene changes, and Xing Jihan is already clenching his right fist. In the next second, with one punch, he sent the enemy in front of him flying. Then, he followed up with a right whipping kick. Next, he slowly began gathering energy, the nameless divine art. Heavenly thunder unyielding. In the next second, a bolt of lightning streaked through the crowd. In an instant, the man wiped out all the enemies present. It seems he is gaining more control over this power. At this moment, the two people beside began to discuss. Isn't that Xing Jihan? It's said he single-handedly defeated a gold-level meat demon in the Bronze League. Encountering such a guy in the Bronze League is like a bolt from the blue accompanying the match's end notification. The man once again took first place. And because he won first place 5 times in a row, his experience points and GP increased by 200%. Also, as his level reached the threshold, the dungeon in the game was unlocked. That's fantastic. I didn't expect the dungeon to unlock so quickly. The dungeon is unlocked after reaching level 15, and it requires not only fighting, but also dealing with traps, mazes, and puzzles. However, an individual's abilities are limited. That's why dungeons are generally recommended for team cooperation. But right now, too many people have their eyes on him, and if the team targets him, after entering the dungeon, it will be a big problem. Although he has a slight inclination to join a guild, he thinks it's better not to. After all, it's not so easy to leave the guild in the future. For now, all he can do is wait until he reaches the silver rank. Then he will create his own guild. He just caught a familiar scent. Yet he has to gamble his whole life on it. Because he is certain Li Haiyan is 0. And the man needs to confirm if his talent has changed. Right after finishing the Bronze League. At this moment, he is having breakfast with Yun Seya. But what Seya didn't expect was that her uncle's cooking skills would be so good. It's all thanks to having cooked every day before. By the way, will you always ride back with your friend in the future? Seya gave a negative answer to this. Because he was too enthusiastic, it made Seya a bit uncomfortable. After all, from the moment they got in the car, he was concerned about Seya's situation. This sounded somewhat awkward. Moreover, Seya felt that her mother's car was very warm. Of course, even the man had the same feeling. The scene shifted, and the man drove to the Web Academy again. To his surprise, Li Haiyan and the others had been waiting for a long time. However, they looked somewhat serious. When he asked why they were there, he said he had arrived early. Meanwhile, Seya felt awkward and quickly said she was going to school. So, can we spare a little time now? Xing Jihan and the man went outdoors after a brief moment. But since many people were watching, the man felt a bit uncomfortable. Then Li Haiyan got straight to the point. Since Xing Jihan was the first man to make him chase after him, he had prepared a good proposal for him. A platinum-level contract. Upon hearing this, the surrounding people felt their guild didn't stand a chance, as he played his trump card right from the start. Even the man found it hard to believe, surprised that he had prepared so thoroughly. The reason he proposed this plan was, it was to express her feelings for Xing Jihan. Upon hearing this, Jiaying immediately understood everything. It was all part of her plan. Whether dealing with other workers' souls, or winning over Xing Jihan. At this moment, however, the man looked incredulous. Because her scent was identical to Zero's. At this point, she finally confirmed that Li Haiyan was indeed Zero. But she was curious whether his talent had been affected. And at this moment, he suddenly realized he shouldn't give without any return. So he asked the man for a number. But the man responded, "How about a bet? Because currently, he's reached a level error, so his first instance will be a dungeon." At this point, both of them looked shocked, not expecting him to unlock the dungeon so quickly. "So, what is the wager? If he doesn't achieve the first place in the dungeon, then he'll join the Divergent Guild and hand over his number with both hands. Are you planning to clear the dungeon all by yourself without joining any guild? But if so, many people will target me. Isn't that why it's worth giving it a shot? So, what should I bet? If he wins, he will check Li Haiyan's status window. He needs to confirm if Li Haiyan's talent has changed. At this point, grooming is just an experience. For others, this is a very awkward talent. But judging by his expression, it seems that the talent hasn't changed, though he still needs to confirm it personally. After both sides confirmed the bet, the man immediately entered the battle net, and he would soon finish. Everything as a blue light appeared. This time the game was Tomb of the Dungeon Ruler. He just defeated the lowest level guard in the tomb. Yet shocked everyone present. Because he showed skills inconsistent with a bronze player. Right after the man entered the battle net, a notification ahead indicated that the difficulty of this dungeon, Tomb of the Ruler, was high. There will be many monsters in this dungeon, but it lacks complex mazes and traps. However, there is a reason the difficulty is rated high. To clear this dungeon successfully, all team members must survive until the end. So having a well-matched team is crucial in this dungeon. At the same time, with the game start signal, 3 team members appeared before the man. And they not only have great equipment, but they even come from the same guild, the Black Eagle Guild. Obviously, they were very excited about their teammate Xing Jihan, and believed that this time they could definitely take first place. Meanwhile, the man took the lead and said he would clear the way for them. Although they were somewhat worried about this, he reassured them not to worry, as he was very confident in his abilities. Luckily, no one was injured this time, otherwise cleaning his clothes would have been a real headache for him. So, let's proceed with the strategy now. Following the map's guidance, the man and his companions quickly arrived at the basement level of the dungeon. At this moment, numerous guards were slowly emerging from the ground. As everyone was caught in a daze, they suddenly saw the tomb's guards stand right before them. They were considering using magic to clear the way, but the man beside them immediately stopped them. He then signaled them to simply follow behind him. The next second, numerous guards launched an attack on the man. He skillfully evaded all the attacks with agile movements. Then, with one punch, the guard in front was instantly defeated. Afterwards, a figure swiftly flashed by. All the guards on this path were cleared out. There are a total of 10 paths leading to the ruler's tomb, and each path has a team clearing it. All paths eventually lead to the 7th underground level, which is the boss room. At this moment, Xing Jihan's team, with their overwhelming strength, is in the lead. Soon, their team reached the 3rd underground level. Even the onlookers found it hard to believe, as the tomb guards have formidable defenses. At this moment, in front of the man, it's like sand. Meanwhile, Kazuo Takeda donated 10,000 GP to the man. What on earth is this guy doing? It looks like he's desperately trying to win him over. And when asked by netizens if he plans to leave, he expressed no interest at all. Then, he immediately banned Takeda Kazuo's insight. Unknowingly, they had already cleared the 3rd basement level. And the teammates were very apologetic about this because they didn't contribute at all. If we could always keep working with the man, it would be great. But it was just this sentence that made the man instantly suspicious. Moments later, they arrived at the 4th basement level, unexpectedly finding it to be a straight path. Judging from the holes in the ground and walls, there were clearly many traps hidden here. It seemed that all the traps were concentrated on this level. Then, the man said, "Here, I can speed up." Of course. There was no problem with that. Once again, the man led the way. Just as he was slowly walking inside, everyone had already made up their minds. Because the Sword King family issued mission number 787, and as long as you complete the task of eliminating yourself, you can earn a reward of 1 billion. At this moment, Kazuo Takeda was leisurely watching the live feed. Xing Jihan, what are you going to do now? The mission he issued has already been accepted by many, but they will never show it. And this means that from the moment he starts acting, he is destined to fail. In this game where death means failure, Everyone raised their weapons against him, because they received a special mission. Stop Xing Jihan from getting first place to earn 1 billion. Just as the man started to act. In the next second, branches and arrows flew straight towards them. Just as the mage was about to use magic to dispel them, the man signaled him not to act. With a wave of his hand, all the arrows stopped in midair. For this was an absolute domain with an attribute of dominion. Everyone wore a look of shock. What kind of power was this? At that moment, the mage noticed 2 people lagging behind the group. They were aiming their weapons at him. Could it be that they want to destroy themselves? Upon hearing this, the man immediately turned around. Just as the mage was casting a spell to stop their actions, a lightning bolt suddenly appeared in the passageway. By the time everyone came to their senses, the man had already punched the weapons out of their hands. Then the man waved his hand, and the 2 were knocked to the ground by an invisible force. That was really dangerous. The game almost ended, but luckily the man stopped it in time. At this moment, the 2 started blaming each other. Did you also take that mission? Shut up, couldn't you tell? Meanwhile, the man also learned why they were doing this. It seems they both accepted the same mission. As long as one of them dies, the game will end immediately. This is really embarrassing. As a member of the guild, he felt very sorry. But the man said he didn't need to apologize at all. Because just like those 2, all the Black Hawk Guild members present accepted this mission. As for how Xing Jihan found out about it, it all starts with the golden streak. From the beginning of the competition, he had been observing everyone's every move. At that time, he noticed that Sword King family member 989 had posted a special mission. Completing the task of eliminating oneself would earn a reward of 1 billion. So he chose to use the donation method to inform the man. Although donating 10 million GP hurt a little. But as a devoted fan of Xing Jihan, this little matter isn't even worth mentioning. As the man waved his finger, the mage collapsed to the ground in the next second. No matter how much that person hates me, but spending 1 billion on a single task. Isn't that a bit too extravagant? You have to know, an average person could never pull that off. So he came to a conclusion, that guy must have at least a powerful backer. Or something specific backing him up. So who exactly will this person be? It seems that guy really wants to see the man's status window, so the man decides to change his previous promise. He raised the subscriber count goal to 1 million, while keeping the promise to come first in every match unchanged. From his expression, it's not hard to see he thinks this is a good thing. After all, he was previously worried about being defeated at 200,000 subscribers. Now he finally doesn't have to worry about that. Then he ties everyone together, and then takes them to the next level. The scene shifts, and everyone looks shocked at the moment, because a steady stream of guards is slowly approaching them. He just lightly clenched his fist, yet instantly shattered all the tomb guards. Because this is the legendary absolute domain. A space completely controlled by him. As the man leads everyone to the next level, they're expressing their inner dissatisfaction at this moment. Is this guy really on the same level as us? And just 10 minutes ago, although their actions were stopped by Xing Jihan on the spot, they were still quite dissatisfied with it. But in the next second, the man quickly tapped a few points on his body. He then collapsed powerlessly to the ground. He was very shocked by this. Could this be the legendary acupoint technique? That's something only top martial artists can achieve. Damn, isn't he a therapist? How can he do these things? Meanwhile, at that moment, he suddenly remembered that Xing Jihan seemed very sensitive about his niece's affairs. But just as he was about to speak, Xing Jihan stopped him on the spot. You better keep your mouth shut. Then, they were dragged by him to the next floor. The scene shifts, and Xing Jihan and the others arrive at the 6th basement level. Faced with the assault of numerous guards, he was somewhat surprised because the number exceeded his expectations. While he was stunned, the guards launched an attack on him first. The man instantly swung his sword to block. Then he threw everyone behind him with one move. Next, a figure flashed by. In an instant, the man wiped out all the guards. At the same time, a violent tremor came from the underground tomb. The next second, countless guards were slowly approaching the man. Looking at their eyes glowing with golden light, these guys were completely different from the previous guards. At this moment, a task prompt appeared ahead. Eliminate all guards for a reward of 1,000 achievement points. This is really amazing. Then, the man raised his hand and cast a shield over everyone. Next, he lifted his long sword and struck the shield. Only by adding attributes to the shield would it become more solid. Now it's your turn. In the next moment, the man instantly unleashed an absolute domain. He had long mastered the use of this ability. Anything entering the domain would move very slowly. He only needs to clench his fist lightly to shatter them instantly. This is the space he controls. It's unimaginable that Alan uses it just to enhance magic. Meanwhile, the man slowly raises the sword in his hand. In the next second, a whirlwind of sword energy rises. Then, a prompt comes from ahead that you've completed a special task. He simply knelt devoutly before the boss, and thus cleared the 7th underground level, and effortlessly opened the portal for return. After the man single-handedly cleared the 6th underground level. Now, they have arrived at the room of the final boss on the 7th underground level. The boss began to speak, muttering, "Welcome to all of you. Marauders, the so-called gold is something that will eventually be taken away. I will give you everything you desire. And the condition to clear the 7th underground level is to pay homage to me. And all team members must participate." Then 4 beams of white light appeared in front of Boff, and they needed to perform a kneeling ceremony within this white light. Immediately following, the man raised his hand and released their restraints. The next second, the man suddenly opened his eyes. Then everyone was involuntarily drawn forward. This happened because the man's power level reached 18. The area and effect of the absolute domain were greatly enhanced. At the same time, the boss gave a loud command. Xing Jihan controlled everyone to kneel slowly toward the boss. This should be the end, right? Facing the kneeling crowd, the boss seemed very satisfied. Then they opened the passage for them to return. Although they lost a 10 billion reward, getting first place in the competition is still quite good. Meanwhile, the magician was very curious why Xing Jihan remained motionless. Because they didn't know that Xing Jihan had just received a special mission. To show true respect to the ruler. Reward: 5,000 achievement points and the ruler's sword. 5,000 points is already a surprising reward. I didn't expect to also get the ruler's sword. Is that gigantic thing really my reward? A true show of respect? At this moment, the man couldn't help but set his sights on the mage nearby. And just as he was lost in thought, the man raised his hand and effortlessly absorbed the sword into his hand. "King of Plunderers, this is my true show of respect to you." Then, he swiftly threw the magic stone in his hand. As he touched the warhorse, a notification of a player's death came from ahead. While everyone was puzzled, the boss appeared quite interested. "Could the King of Raiders be referring to me? Of course, this is my most sincere respect for you. Aside from that gold, I want something truly valuable. Like that sword in your hand. The sword of the ruler, seizing it from the boss would truly show my respect. It is also the only way to complete the special mission." Upon hearing this, the boss was immediately intrigued. He praised the man's bold action. "I will grant you my treasure because you've shown me the utmost respect. I will gratefully accept it from him. Then try to take it. My phoenix sword." The man simply expressed an opinion, which left the boss utterly astonished. With just one strike, he instantly destroyed the boss's divine weapon. Just as the boss was about to hand over the phoenix sword, the man was ready to catch it. At that moment, a wave of heat rushed toward them. The extreme temperature even caused them to spontaneously combust on the spot. Now the situation was becoming tricky. It seemed they couldn't hold on much longer, though their deaths didn't matter much. But the moment they died, the man's weapon would disappear as well. For that, he must resolve this matter before then. At this moment, the extreme heat instantly melted the gold coins scattered everywhere. Even the team members carried away 2 people. From the man's intuition, this phoenix sword, he certainly can't handle it. The only breakthrough is the longbow in his hand. Before he shoots the arrow, the man must destroy the longbow. A long time ago, a sage appeared before a lost man. The sage guided him on a path forward. Thus, the tri-elemental martial arts came to the world. Its most important aspects are precision and ultra-high-speed thrusts. With a sudden thrust of the sword by the man, the boss immediately reacted. But in the next second the Immortal's guiding strike attacked. On the spot, it instantly destroyed his longbow. Even the boss was very shocked by this. "What is your name?" The man said his name is Xing Jihan. "You are quite an outstanding warrior." Immediately, he saw the phoenix sword given to the man. "You've given me enough respect, so I bestow this phoenix sword upon you. Plunderers Xing Jihan. I look forward to our next meeting." "Of course, so do I." Then the package slowly dissipated into the air. After some testing, the man found this thing quite handy. Just remove the feathers at the back, and it can be used as a spear. Meanwhile, netizens were buzzing with discussion, as even in slow motion, they couldn't figure out what the man had done. But this was an inevitable result. The guiding palm not only moves fast but is like a sword's energy, impossible to capture. Looks like I'm getting better at using this nameless divine technique. Although it was hard to adapt at first, and consumed a lot of energy. But with increased usage he became more adept. If this continues in the near future, he will completely master it. Meanwhile, news came from the front that the man was exempted from the underground level 7 test. Next, it's time to deal with the remaining team members. At this moment, the man suddenly spun the spear in his hand. Under his terrified gaze, he saw a figure flash by. Suddenly, a notification sounded. A teammate had fallen. He only brought back a weapon from the instance. Yet it left everyone utterly astonished. After the man cleared the 7th underground level, he returned to Earth with the Phoenix Sword. Everyone was shocked because it was obtained from a bronze level instance. But you all probably watched the live stream, right? I got first place again. So as promised, you'll show me your status window. But before that, she asked the man to put down the spear. After all, the spear emanated powerful energy. The scene shifted as Li Haiyan showed his status window to the man, who became unusually excited. As expected, Li Haiyan had the talent for official cultivation. However, he seemed to greatly dislike his talent. After all, he spent a lot of effort to obtain his talent, only to receive a useless cultivation talent. He even thought he shouldn't have gone to that academy. At this moment, the man smiled because he was very happy. Then, he took out his phone from his pocket, and hoped Li Haiyan would give him her number. But didn't I lose? What does this mean? It's nothing, I just simply want your number. But wasn't my number on the business card before? I lost that thing a long time ago. She was very puzzled by the man's actions. Could he be interested in nurturing talent? Then he entered his number on the phone. Immediately after, he turned and left. The scene shifts to everyone watching the man's game records. Yeah, your uncle is getting stronger and stronger. But Jin Zissou on the side seemed a bit unhappy hearing this. However, in their impression, the man was quite scruffy just a few months ago. They didn't expect such a huge change. Meanwhile, Shizhu reminded Xia. That day is approaching, your 18th birthday, and also the day you receive your talent. Meanwhile, your classmates have started speculating that Xia will at least receive an S-level talent. After all, his father is the king of fitness with a 3S level talent. His mother is a dual S-level saint. And his uncle, who has been very active lately, has a talent of at least S-level. However, Xia believes that talent has nothing to do with bloodline. Nevertheless, Xia still feels a bit nervous about the fact that he is about to awaken his talent. But Shizhu, beside him, tells him not to worry. Because at that time, he will give him a gift. So please make sure he accepts it. Meanwhile, a trainee suddenly collapsed on the ground. The Sword King instantly knocked down several people with great power. Data shows that the Sword King is stronger than ever. All his abilities have been significantly enhanced. They are eagerly anticipating his first competition after joining the Star Guard. What kind of performance will he deliver? An ordinary soccer ball made him suddenly become the world's strongest wizard. Right after Xing Jihan won the bet agreement, Li Haiyan was feeling very upset, because his father was urging him to get married soon. But he had no interest in an arranged marriage. What made him even angrier was that he initially thought his blind date would be the chubby guy from the Star Guard. But unexpectedly it turned out to be a bald old man. It seems that being wealthy can't solve all problems. But aren't you going home to rest? He replied no. After all, he thinks staying here would be more comfortable. Then he expressed his deep apologies to Lin Jiaying. Because with his S-level talent, he could make a name for himself in the battle network. Yet he wasted his time protecting Li Haiyan. However, he believes it was all voluntary. He will protect Li Haiyan until he inherits the entire group. At this moment, Li Haiyan immediately expressed that he would soon break away from home and create a lot of wealth with his own hands. Is your way of creating wealth by investing in gambling? This time is different. I am confident of winning. Are you referring to the match between Country H and Country J? That is indeed a very safe investment. After all, most people in Country H believe that Country J will win this match. Meanwhile, Xing Jihan sent a text message to Li Haiyan. The content of the message even left him stunned on the spot. The scene shifts to Lan Ren enthusiastically hosting Diego Moss Hyde with a barbecue. After a few rounds of drinks, he began to reveal his true feelings. He was originally a world-class soccer star, but because of the emergence of the gaming network, his popularity plummeted overnight. It even ended with his family falling apart. Xing Jihan understood this very well. He was a well-known soccer star himself. But because of the gaming network, people gradually lost interest in sports. Eventually, people forgot about soccer. But he's curious why they would even want him to become a mage. Because of his talent, he can enhance all football-like items. Right. Of course, whenever he uses something similar to a football, he gets a 300x bonus. But he simply cannot become a mage because his mana is ridiculously low. Meanwhile, the man immediately summoned an item. Arachne's Orb, a magic ball used by the spider clan Arachne, known for its extreme elasticity. And this is the most suitable equipment for him. So, do you have any special thoughts? After all, in his previous life, he was the most powerful magician in the world. Although he really wanted to possess it, the high price made him hesitate. However, the man had already planned to give it to him, because he came here for only one reason. That was to invite Moss Hyde to join his guild. But can you afford the price of this equipment? Of course, because I'll be earning more rewards soon. Meanwhile, Li Haiyan was lost in thought as he looked at the information in his hand. Because Xing Jihan had already told him the exact score. Stubborn Nation will crush H Nation with a 3-1 score. Meanwhile, Sword Kings slowly stepped onto the competition stage. Next, H Nation and Stubborn Nation will engage in a fierce showdown. Sword King just gently swung the sword. But it shocked everyone present. Because he actually pierced his own chest with the sword on the spot. As H Nation and Stubborn Nation were about to start their match. At this moment, Xing Jihan handed his bet to Moss Hyde. Did H country unexpectedly win the first match? However, Moss Hyde was skeptical of this result. After all, the Stubborn Nation has the strongest Sword King. That guy possesses overwhelming power. Then, the man pointed to the screen. Why don't we witness it with our own eyes? What will the outcome be? The scene shifts. The match officially begins at this moment. The rules are as follows: defeat all opponents. There are 5 rounds, and the first to win 3 rounds is the winner. Then the Sword King instructed everyone. Follow me closely. But the crowd refused, not intending to follow the Sword King's command. Because the Sword King's participation forced their club president to sit out the season. Yet, the Sword King felt no remorse. Meanwhile, a beam of light descended from the sky. It struck the Sword King directly. It was the contestant from Country H who took the initiative to attack first. Just as everyone decided to launch a total attack on the Sword King, they saw the Sword King suddenly swing his sword. He instantly repelled them on the spot. At the same time, everyone was in disbelief, because the Sword King pierced his own chest. Since you don't want to follow my command, there's no need for me to participate in this competition. The next second, information that Country H achieved the first kill came from the front, leaving everyone extremely shocked. Even Ma Shida was no exception. He was quite curious about how Xing Jihan learned of this matter. But the man said it was not something he could disclose, urging them to focus on the match at hand. As expected, Team H quickly secured victory in the first match. Due to the unexpected actions of the Sword King, Team H's Li Jinno earned the MVP title. At the same time, many expressed dissatisfaction with the Sword King's behavior. After all, as a representative of one side's team, publicly behaving in such a manner was a disgrace to the team's reputation. In response, the Sword King said, "I cannot tolerate your childish behavior. You are a bunch of unprofessional trash, and I don't want to waste my time on you. If you do not acknowledge me as the captain, then I will never compete again. Either win with me, or continue to experience failure like before." In the end, they reluctantly chose the former. As the second round of the competition began, the Sword King was once again seen standing on the battlefield. Would he repeat the same mistakes? But soon they sensed something was off. Because this time the aura was completely different. Just as they were preparing to defend, the next second, a fierce slash instantly struck. It took down the face of the team on the spot. Amidst the shocked gazes of everyone. Is this guy finally going all out? He merely won the entire bet. Yet surprised everyone present. Because he accurately predicted the score of both teams. Right after the Sword King showed his true strength, he instantly killed the 2 people in front of him with a single strike. In just 2 attacks, the Sword King immediately tied the score between the 2 teams. The scene quickly transitioned to the 4th round of the match. In the previous round, the Sword King had crushed everyone with his immense power. But this round wasn't going to be that easy. The warrior launched an extremely fierce attack against him. Even the nearby mage used all his strength. In no time, the Sword King was tightly bound by chains. Just as everyone was preparing to attack him. The next second, the Sword King released the sword in his left hand. Then he blocked the warrior's attack on the spot. As the warrior looked on in confusion, the Sword King suddenly exerted immense strength, sending the warrior flying instantly. At that moment, the mage was thinking about reinforcing the chains. But the Sword King had already used instant movement to appear in front of him. Immediately, a sharp slash cut through. He was taken away on the spot. Just as 2 members were about to assist them, the new guards on the side stopped them immediately. Don't underestimate me. At the same time, the Sword King had already flown on his sword to his front. You are truly a bunch of rabble. Did you join the Empire just to look cool? Though I must admit, sword riding does look pretty cool. If only your skills were as sharp as your tongue. Upon hearing this, he immediately unleashed all his energy. Then a surge of thunder poured out. This is awesome. Perfect, I can test my latest research skills. As the Sword King raised his great sword. The next second, a giant sword descended from the sky. The arena exploded in an instant. As everyone looked on in disbelief. The Sword King single-handedly secured the championship with a 3:1 advantage. Meanwhile, Ma Sid, who was watching the match, looked shocked. How did you know the score so precisely? But the man simply told him, I saw it all in a dream. Although he made quite a bit of money from this, something unexpected happened. Compared to the previous life, the Sword King seemed even stronger now. Even if the man obtained the nameless divine skill, he couldn't easily defeat him. After all, that guy also possesses 3S level items. But it doesn't matter much, no matter how strong the Sword King becomes. I just need to become stronger than him. Wait for me, that day will come soon. He merely sent out an ordinary soccer ball, but received the trust of the strongest mage, and joined the guild without hesitation. Right after the match ended. At this moment, Li Haiyan was extremely shocked. Because he really won and earned over 200 million. But in the end, he lost more than 20 million when settling. Because earlier, he had increased his bet, thinking that Jugua would win against Igua 3 o'clock. He placed a 200 million bet on that. But in the end, he ended up losing over 20 million. On the other side, the man gave the magic ball to Mazid and invited him to cooperate. He was puzzled as to why the man would take an interest in someone as insignificant as him. Could he really be that valuable? Of course, I believe my choice is not wrong. Then the man pushed the magic orb in front of him. I believe you will become the most powerful wizard. This gift is the greatest affirmation of your future. I need you. Mashiduins was immediately lost in thought. Because it had been a long time since anyone said that to him. He really missed that feeling. Now, the appearance of Xing Jihan brought him hope again. So he had no reason to refuse the invitation. I'm looking forward to working with you, President. I will do my best to meet your expectations. Then I look forward to your performance. The scene shifts to the Bronze League, where Lin Jiaying is making great strides. At this moment, two competitors are launching an attack on him. The next second, he instantly slaughters them with a magnificent move. Then a notification comes from the front. Lin Jiaying takes first place in this match. Although this is a good result, it is far from enough for him. He needs to become stronger. Whether it's the forgetful champion in a match, or a rising star, Xing Jihan is still far behind them. For this, he must put in more effort. On the other side, looking at the message on the phone. At this moment, Xia feels very disappointed. Although Kim Suk-soo expresses great concern for him, he still pretends to be strong. Just then, a sudden break interrupted their conversation. In front of them was a large group of reporters. Meanwhile, a man was rushing towards Xia's direction. With a burst of jumping, he could feel that his physical fitness had improved significantly. If he wants to find traces of Xia, he must climb to the highest point of the city. The scene changes, and looking at the bustling scene below, Xing Jihan can't help but reminisce about the past. In his previous life, he often stayed at very high points. At this moment, he realized how strong Yin Shizhen was at this time. Although Xing Jihan had never fought against him. After all, Earth has begun to encounter destruction. The top-ranked Sword King suddenly disappeared. Although he isn't sure what exactly happened, he is certain that the Sword King of this era is as strong as he was at his peak in a past life. So no matter what, he must become stronger than before, and master the nameless divine skill more quickly. Meanwhile, on the other side, the uncle is trying hard to stop everyone's actions, but they persistently refuse to yield. Some even believe that the Sword King became like this because of Xia's presence. Just as things were about to get out of hand, they saw the man slowly walking towards them, with magic gathering in his hand. The next second, everyone was instantly pushed back by a mysterious force. How dare you attack the reporters? Aren't you afraid of the pressure from the internet? Of course I care a lot. That's why I'm holding back a lot now. Since this is the first time, I choose to forgive you. You should be thankful you're still alive. Then he turned to Xia and said it was all over, it was time to go home. After thanking them, the man helped Xia leave the place. At this moment, Shiju could no longer hide her inner joy. Then he burst into laughter. At this moment, the crowd finally realized that she might be the granddaughter of the president of the Taiyuan Daily, Kim Suk-soo. It seems that Xia is completely finished. On the other hand, the Sword King publicly declared that he had no daughters. This seems to be the reason why the reporters flocked in. At this moment, Xing Jihan was very angry, but he didn't know how to calm Xia's emotions. At this moment, Xia suddenly said, "Does the wish you promised me before still count? You only found the Shadow Queen, right?" Of course, he confirmed this. Then he immediately took out his phone. That's right. I found the Shadow Queen. He merely broke through a barrier, but it made netizens' blood boil instantly. Because he was the first to break the norm. And that's a barrier specifically for the competition. It can withstand all attacks from diamonds and players. Right after Xia found the Shadow Queen, He expressed his opinion that she is the most likely candidate, compared to the elf queen sitting on the throne. Xia felt she was more like the Shadow Queen. Then he sent the picture to his uncle. First, her eyes. The whites of her eyes are black, which is a very rare condition. Secondly, there's another strange thing. Before the race starts, he always keeps his eyes on the first place. And in every race, he observes his uncle. So, Sure specifically checked the records of each race. It turned out that everyone he observed ended up winning first place. It's as if he can see the future. And there's one more important thing. It's his shadow on the ground, though it's unclear due to poor image quality. But he could feel something was not quite right. It seemed to be indeed a significant discovery. Then he expressed gratitude to Xia and decided to confirm it in the next match. But what is your wish? As long as you say it, I will agree to your request. Then my wish is. The scene shifts, and the man is back in the arena. And today, he will break the norm. Break through the barrier in the grandstand. And confirm that spirit. To see if he is the Shadow Queen. In no time, the man completed 10 kills, which was enough to keep him in first place. Next, he needs to figure out how to break this barrier. But it's not an easy task, as its strength is equivalent to a diamond-level player. And it can block all skills and attacks. Even the Wanderer's Eye of Men cannot penetrate this barrier. To see his true face, a breach must be created. At this moment, he is slowly gathering power. After all, he possesses an exceedingly powerful weapon, though it cannot unleash his full potential. But a simple thrust is enough. With a sudden burst of strength, he launches Guiding Finger in an instant. Yet it caused no damage at all. However, the online viewers have exploded in excitement. Because Xing Jihan really did this, and he didn't stop there. Instead, he launched numerous swift attacks. In no time, the large barrier had a small hole pierced by him. At the same time, he suddenly activated the Wanderer's Eye. Because he had to do it before the barrier recovered. To see his true face. But then he was stunned on the spot. Because he found himself in a different space. At this moment, a white light suddenly appeared behind him. When he turned his head to look, he was extremely shocked. A pair of huge eyes were staring at him. He had only awakened the most useless F-level talent, and was thus subjected to merciless ridicule. After encountering the Shadow Queen in the Bronze League, the man had been lying at home for 3 days and nights. And he couldn't calm down for a long time. Because that guy was truly terrifying. Facing someone like that with a bronze-level body, the man was utterly powerless. Even with his pre-return strength, he might not be able to defeat him. However, that guy's strength might be a great help. Then he opened the achievement store, based on the achievement points he had earned before. At this moment, the achievement store had been upgraded to level 5. And the new feature from the upgrade was the addition of constellation slots. This way, he can choose a few more constellations. But it's too early to purchase it now. After all, Earth is still in tutorial mode. So this thing isn't needed for the time being. Thus, he chose to add the title of Chao Wei. He then started to check his status window. Unknowingly, the man's level had risen to level 22, just 3 levels away from becoming a silver player. And there was a reason he chose to add the title. Because he is about to become the successor of the martial god. This title will be awarded once Xing Jihan's martial power reaches 30, allowing him to learn the nameless divine skill. During the process of connecting with the martial god, he just needs to defeat him to earn this title. And this was also the title he used throughout his previous life. In any case, he must learn the nameless divine skill as soon as possible. Because he will soon face that guy. The scene shifts to a man leading Xia to find an empty room. But it seems Xia still feels the space is quite small. And that's only natural. After all, he had been living in the Construction King's palace. However, even the man did not expect that his wish was to move out. It seems that place indeed brought him a lot of pain. To get him out of that environment as soon as possible. The man immediately decided they needed a bigger house. After all, Xia is about to become a player too, so they need more space for the connector. Of course, the introducer immediately agreed. He has always been a loyal fan of Xing Jihan, and is grateful for the man's care for Xia. Although he was once a member of the Sword King clan, when the Sword King left here, he decisively left the family. However, he still worries about Xia. Seeing him so strong now, he feels relieved and gives Xia some blessings. You will surely awaken an impressive talent. Speaking of talent, after that competition, everyone's eyes turn to Xia again. Once he awakens that F-level talent, he will fall into endless criticism. For this, the man secretly resolved that he needed to temporarily prevent others from approaching him. Especially the reporters. On the other side, Kim Hisu had already arranged for the reporters to interview him on the day Xia awakens his talent. Even the Golden Retriever thought he was very scheming. But why do you hate him so much? Because if it weren't for the appearance of the battle net, Xia wouldn't even have the qualification to stand with him. If he awakens a trash talent, that would be a huge joke. But do you really have a way to defeat Xing Jihan in the competition? Are you kidding? I don't take that guy seriously at all. His father is the strongest sword king with an awakened 3S level talent, yet he awakened the most useless F level talent. Now there are only 14 hours left until Xia's talent awakening. At this moment, Kim Heeju is asking Xia, hoping that he can accept an interview when he acquires the talent. But Xia firmly rejected him. Although Kim Heesu claimed it was all for her own good, Xia didn't want to get entangled with him. She then turned and left. At that moment, he finally revealed his true colors. Even though Xia refused the interview, he had already thought of a plan. Tonight is the moment Xia's talent will awaken. How amusing would it be if she awakens with an F-grade talent? Meanwhile, at this moment, Xia is lost in thought. Because he has endured a lot so far, he actually knew about Jin Shishu's true nature. One day, he accidentally overheard a conversation among Jin Shishu and others. There was a reason why Jin Shishu approached him. He just wanted to kick Xia when he was down. If he received an F-level talent, it would be a very interesting matter. And after learning his true nature, Xia was only shocked for a moment. Then he turned into a state of unease. Because he was very afraid that he would really get an F-level talent. During the talent acquisition ceremony, he kept pleading that any talent would be fine, as long as it wasn't F-level. He hoped to acquire a decent talent. However, when a flash of red light passed, the scene in front of him made him open his eyes wide. That's right, what he got was an F-level talent. Late bloomer. Now, everything was truly over. 5 hours before Xia received her ability, the man was heading towards the ability hall. To ensure that no one disturbed Xia, he used all his connections, evacuating the entire school, and even the reporters, arranging senior officials to stand guard. After all, the top officials were also very concerned about Xia's ability ceremony. Looks like I owe you another favor. He was then stationed outside the hall to wait. Although he is also very worried about Xia, all he can do now is to protect him. At the same time, he hopes that this gift in front of him can bring some comfort to Xia. Time quickly reached the last 5 minutes before Xia received his gift. At this moment, Kim Suksu was bringing reporters over for an interview. Xing Jihan was quite surprised. How did they manage to get in here? Of course, they had help from someone they knew. Then he openly expressed his thoughts. He was here today to interview Xia. But Xing Jihan refused this. As both sides were unwilling to back down, Jin Shishu pretended to ponder for a moment. How about this? Level 27 Xing Jihan, in order to protect his niece, was attacked by a high-level unknown warrior. In the next second, a heavy punch landed on the back of the man's head. Damn it, who is this guy anyway? The man just opened his status window. But it shocked Xia greatly. Because he also has an F-level talent. Yet demonstrated strength that doesn't match it. After the golden-haired one ambushed Xing Jihan, he was feeling a bit complacent, quietly staying put, saying he'd take care of Xia well. When CI, the man immediately felt enraged. Who allowed you to mention him? In the next second, the man punched the golden-haired guy heavily in the face. But it didn't seem to cause him much harm, because his talent is actually hardening. Meanwhile, both sides began exchanging punches. Just as the golden-haired guy was about to strike with full force, the man landed a punch directly on his jaw. Then he firmly grabbed his hair, holding on tightly for a moment. The golden retriever was lifted into the air like a child. Your behavior is just like a bully. I will give you an unforgettable memory so you'll remember this day. Then the man casually waved his hand. The golden retriever was thrown in front of Jin Shishu. At this moment, seeing this scene, he broke out in a cold sweat. On the other side, even though Xia was disappointed after gaining his ability, he quickly pulled himself together because he knew that sadness couldn't solve everything. Now it's time to leave the talent hall. However, he was quite worried as he looked at the status window. After all, he knew well that an F-level talent was useless in the arena. What could the explanation? Late bloomer, you will discover your potential in the future. Possibly mean? Just after leaving the talent hall, he was shocked by what he saw. Because a man was playing with golden hair. And he was very curious about what was happening here. Meanwhile, Jin Hisu was hurling curses at the man. He even mentioned that his grandfather is the head of a newspaper. However, the man didn't care at all. Even if he manipulates the media to create fake information, and tries in various ways to ruin their reputations, the man remains unmoved. At worst, they can leave place A. But it's different for Kim Suksu, as he will pay a heavy price for his actions. With a wave of the man's small hand, countless flames rushed towards Jin Shishu. Since you don't seem like someone who reflects on themselves, you should remember this experience well. The next second, a fierce flame surged toward him. In no time, the blaze illuminated the entire sky. The scene shifts, and Sia is very worried. He fears that Jin Shishio will retaliate against them through the media. But the man reassures him not to worry. After all, such a large newspaper wouldn't act recklessly just because of Jin Suksu. And right now, the most important thing is what kind of talent you've acquired. Late bloomer, an F-level talent, just as expected. Then, the man opened his status window, indicating for Sia to take a good look at it. However, Sia showed a look of disbelief, because the man's talent was also at F level. Look at the data above, those are unique attributes. It requires unlocking through hidden conditions. As you can see, talent level doesn't represent everything, because you can also acquire hidden unique attributes. And before that, this thing will guide your path forward. He awakened the most useless F-rank talent, but it shocked the man deeply, because before his return, he was ranked second in the world. Right after I handed Shia a prop, he realized that this talent could actually level up. Late bloomer. Requires 50 more games to level up. The current effect, attributes grow by 100% with each game. But there's an unknown secret about this talent. Before the reset, the second-ranked player in the world was Jin Yuhua from the Jin Kingdom. His talent was also late bloomer. Even Xing Jihan found it unbelievable. The world's second-ranked talent drove Xia to despair and death. Just as the man had anticipated, the A-rank glasses could reveal the true nature of the talent. And it was the day before Xia awakened her talent. The tool had been repaired by the man. Just the fact that the level could increase was already terrifying, let alone the 100% growth rate boost. That essentially meant doubling the training efficiency compared to others. With this, Xia would be able to obtain the rare attribute the man mentioned even faster. Upon hearing this, Xia was completely stunned on the spot, and even firmly believed that he would definitely become a top player. At this moment, Xia finally burst into tears of joy, because he had waited for this moment for so long. When the Sword King left and abandoned him, people poured their anger onto him. After experiencing everything, Xia became stronger. He was no longer the woman abandoned by the Sword King, but a player named In Xia. But he did find the man quite amazing. As if he knew everything that would happen in the future. Now that you're feeling much better, let's go for the birthday feast together. I waited in line for a long time for this meal. Meanwhile, at this moment, Kim Suk-soo was extremely furious, because even his hair and eyebrows had been burned off. Just then, the butler hurried over with the video footage, and it was this footage that gave him a breakthrough to exploit. That was Shia's facial expression. A look as if about to cry at any moment. Perfect for writing articles, it seems he must have received an F-level talent. Next, he will thoroughly get back at them. Meanwhile, the long-unseen golden stream is lost in thought, feeling very empty for not being chosen by Xing Jihan. Whether it's that mage or those 3 team members, Golden Stream has been helping Xing Jihan all along. Removing all obstacles, he believed he was destined to become Xing Jihan's manager. For this reason, he hoped the man would look at his note. Meanwhile, the man was in the middle of a match. In a flash, he swiftly dealt with the monsters. With just a few moves, he instantly killed the hordes of creatures. The other team members watched everything from the side. As a bolt of lightning struck down, the game ended, and Xing Jihan secured first place. At this moment, the man's level increased to 25. Now he can participate in the silver advancement battle. Having consistently ranked first, he earned the title of Bronze Ruler. He was also selected among the Global Top 100 in the Bronze League. On August 25th, the Global Top 100 battle will commence. In the Global Top 100 battle, just participating in a match grants eligibility for promotion to silver. The Top 100 battle has a unique feature. That's fighting until only one person remains. The promotion battle is a struggle for survival until one remains. The match ends as a stage to decide who ranks first. Xing Jihan looked at the list in front of him. He fell into thought. The top player of both countries, Baron Williams. Even the man himself didn't expect to encounter this guy so soon. This is really terrible because he has never defeated Baron. He has only opened up 3 dungeons. But he was disqualified from inheriting by the star constellation Martial God, and stripped of all his talents. As for Xing Jihan, the decisive factor that allowed him to enter the top 100 was his mastery of a unique subordinate attribute. Of course, martial power is also a unique attribute, but before unlocking the nameless divine art, it's merely a combination of strength, endurance, and speed. And strength is a power that transcends reality, such as absolute domain, enhancing magic power as well as enhancing psychic power, etc. But even so, there is a significant difference in weight class. The power Balan uses is on a different level. Power is a unique attribute proportional to magic and divine power. And Balan was born with immense magic power, so he has at least twice the power of Xingji. No matter how strong a man's psychic power is, it is useless in front of absolute strength. Because Balan, purely relying on his power attribute, holds the #1 ranking in the world. He didn't hold on to this position by luck. After all, during the Bronze Age, he already possessed diamond-level magical civilization. Facing him head-on is tantamount to seeking death. Therefore, he must quickly unlock the nameless divine skill. The scene shifts. The man gazes at the window information in front of him, lost in thought. At this moment, he found it hard to believe. After all, it was so different from the impression he had. Just then, a phone rang. Could it really be Li Haiyan? And he started asking the man for the score of the next match. This left the man bewildered. Meanwhile, the two were discussing this matter. At this moment, Li Haiyan appeared a bit nervous because Xing Jihan also entered the global top 100. And Balan from the Dark Nation would also participate in this match. But Xing Jihan asked Li Haiyan to bet on him winning first place. However, considering Balan's immense strength, Li Haiyan wasn't too optimistic about the man. Although Xing Jihan had accurately predicted previous scores, taking everything into account, he still thinks choosing Baron would be a safer bet. But how has your training been going lately? At this moment, he is thinking about reporting his progress to Li Haiyan. The scene shifts, and the man takes a deep breath. Then, he raises his power level to 30. All conditions have been met. Next, he will master the nameless divine skill. As the Wanderer's Eye activates. The next moment, the constellation Martial God Wanderer appears before him. Although he couldn't see anything, he could feel it. It was exactly the same as last time. We finally met again. Then he admitted that the man was his successor. Then countless energies slowly converged towards the man to accept the skill nameless divine art. Generally, a constellation would propose its own conditions at this time, but the wandering martial god wasn't so harsh. Just as he thought things would proceed smoothly, a warning came from ahead, and the wandering martial god frowned. Because the man had already cleared 3 dungeons. So the martial god became wary of him. In the next second, he immediately cancelled the transfer of the nameless divine skill. Then, he turned around and returned to his own path. At this moment, the man still hadn't realized what had happened. But when he looked at his status window, he showed an expression of disbelief. Previously ranked 7th in the world, Xing Jihan, faced with the upcoming top 100 tournament, found that all his talents had disappeared. He just appeared at the top 100 tournament. But it left the man utterly shocked. Because this had never happened in his previous life. Shortly after Xing Jihan lost his talent. At this moment, Xia stood calmly in front of the man. And he had just completed his withdrawal from school. Now he finally felt significantly relieved. This was the decision he made after awakening his talent. After all, Xia has decided to accept the man's training. So there's no reason to stay at the academy any longer. At last, Xia's issue is resolved. But what about the man's own problems? After all, the top 100 competition is starting tomorrow. Yet he has lost the Eye of the Wanderer. And worse, he hasn't fully inherited the nameless divine skill. At this moment, he only feels restless and uneasy. Seemingly, Xia noticed something was off with him. Could it be because of the top 100 competition? Indeed, but he's more worried about the future that might change for him. At that moment, Xia encouraged the man. You will definitely win the competition. After all, you always find a way to solve the problem. At the same time, a sharp pain hit the man's left eye. Damn it, what is going on? The scene shifts, and now Xing Jihan. He felt something was wrong with his left eye. So he tried using force to eliminate it. In the next second, countless forces shattered the crystal instantly. A strong pain followed immediately. At the same time, a prompt came from ahead. You have erased the traces of the wandering martial god. The player has also been completely liberated from the constellation's rule. As the man was trying to figure out what was happening, a prompt sounded ahead. From now on, you can gain support from other constellations. What does this mean? Could it be that the martial god was always preventing me from acquiring the power of other constellations? Damn, I thought there were no conditions because he was selflessly giving. Turns out he was parasitizing inside me all along. Then suddenly, the martial god vanished without a trace. The man was very puzzled, just a mere martial god. Could he really be afraid of a mere bronze player? Though the man was confused, regardless, the martial god's power was no longer usable. However, he can take advantage of this opportunity to search for other constellations. And just at this moment, a mission appeared ahead. Epic quest, find and provoke the Shadow Queen, reward, 50,000 achievement points. And gain the interest of the Shadow Queen constellation. But the most important thing right now is tomorrow's competition. After all, she needs to fill the void left by the God of War's power. He just happened to have an idea. The scene shifts, and the Bronze Top 100 Battle Tournament officially kicks off. The game will continue until only one player is left. As soon as the man entered the scene, he became everyone's target. With the official start of the match, everyone immediately launched an attack on him. But the man, calm and composed, instantly killed 2 people with a single strike. Facing the enemy's fierce offensive, he immediately chose to block it. At the same time, a purple flame came rushing toward him. But the man merely waved his right hand slightly. And in the next second, he redirected the flame toward a nearby enemy. Then he lunged forward, charging at the mage. Facing the mage's multiple fire spells, the man swung a heavy punch, sending them flying instantly. Leaving aside the 8 wheels, their strength is pretty much the same. Just as he was thinking of slowly dealing with these enemies, suddenly, a sharp blade appeared right in front of him. In an instant, the man immediately used both hands to block it. He was shocked by this, because the person before him was none other than Li Jiaying, the Plum Blossom Sword. But why was he here? He had only appeared in the 100-strong tournament. Yet it startled the man, because this meant that the future had already changed, and he seems to have grown much stronger. Facing the sudden appearance of Lin Jiaying, the man appeared extremely shocked. Back when the Space Alliance emerged, defeat meant death, and the man vividly remembers the final match of the Northeast Asia Championship. The stubborn nation sent Sword King Yoon Sejin to compete. However, the players from each country all refused to participate out of fear of dying. As the next candidate for Sword King, he took on this responsibility alone. Plum Blossom Sword, Lin Jiaying. But what puzzled the man was that this guy should never have been in the top 100. Why was he in a place like this? Could it be that the future has changed? At that moment, the man blocked his attack just in time. Then unleashed the flashing thunder, not directly hitting his face. He was sent flying dozens of meters away on the spot. At the same time, the man swung his spear towards Lin Jiaying. But she dodged it. The man was very shocked. Was this guy always this strong? Faced with Lin Jiaying's deadly attack, he realized that this guy had indeed grown a lot. He minimized unnecessary movements and intensified each slash, and his steps became much lighter. He was very curious about what had happened to him during the time they hadn't met. What exactly had changed? Going back in time, at this moment he informed Li Haiyan that he had entered the top 100 of the Bronze League. He hoped Li Haiyan could help him upgrade his equipment, although he didn't want to admit that the equipment was affecting his performance. After countless training sessions, he concluded that the sword was too heavy for him. Li Haiyan was very puzzled as to why this matter was only being brought up now. He didn't expect that a broken sword would affect his strength. So, Li Haiyan immediately set out to find him a suitable sword. He aimed to help him showcase his full potential in the next match. Li Haiyan firmly believed that as long as he made up his mind, he would definitely be able to defeat Xing Jihan. After all, he was the rising star of Hbo University. He just needed to prove his own strength. Let's perform well in the top 100 competition. Let's perform well in the top 100 competition. Time returns to the present. Facing Xing Jihan's fierce attack, he realizes at this moment that his strength is less than half of Xing Jihan's. Given the current situation, he has no chance to defeat Xing Jihan. And he has also seen through Lin Jiaying's heart. But he didn't know why he would go to such lengths. After all, if he just challenged those weaker guys, he could survive for a long time. At this moment, he murmured softly. He knew that he couldn't possibly defeat Xing Jihan now. Maybe he would never be able to. But if he gave up now, then everything would end. Since he couldn't surpass Xing Jihan, then he would give it his all to follow him. Indeed, he's that kind of guy. Even knowing he can't win, he still chooses to keep fighting. In his past life, he died at the hands of the Sword King. But this time, he entered the Bronze Wall. Xing Jihan is curious if his return can change his future. And he had thought long ago that his team needed someone like Lin Jiaying. At the same time, Lin Jiaying unleashed the secret Plum Blossom Storm. The next second, numerous figures rushed toward him. Xing Jihan slowly raised his right hand. Although he wasn't quite used to the spear, he remembered a move that was perfect for the situation. 3 talents 5 junior brothers, sweeping thousands. He was merely blocking the fire magic attack. Yet challenged Baron, the world's #1. I was utterly shocked. Because he used Baron's unique power, right after Xing Jihan unleashed the move, sweeping thousands away. At this moment, the third ranked in the Dark Nation, Little Clark, led the crowd. They found Baron at the top 100 battle, and they want to take this opportunity to defeat him. But Baron doesn't take them seriously. He even taunts them afterward. How about you all come at me together? The next second, everyone suddenly launched an attack on Baron. Yet with just a raise of his hand, he absorbed Little Clark into his grasp. Immediately, A surge of red energy repelled the heavy responsibilities behind him. Facing their sneak attack, he merely waved his hand and instantly killed them. At this moment, he was already immersed in the joy of battle. At that moment, the commotion from Xing Jihan caught his attention. He realized Xing Jihan was no ordinary person, just like what he had experienced before returning. Moments later, Baron approached the man. "Could you be the legendary Xing Jihan?" As the two conversed, Baron suddenly launched a sneak attack on the man, but he easily dodged it. Immediately, a flash thunder strike was launched at Baron in a counterattack. However, he floated in the air and dodged the attack. Facing the impending magical attack, Xing Jihan, under pressure, launched an attack at him. But it was easily dodged. At the same time, Baron immediately counterattacked. The immense power instantly knocked the man to the ground. But it wasn't over. Suddenly, many magic circles appeared in the sky, accompanied by a wave of his hand. Countless flames struck everyone directly the next second. In an instant, the entire arena seemed like a hell. Just as he was feeling smug about it, the man unleashed a sweeping attack. Instantly, he killed everyone on the spot. At this moment, Xing Jihan's ranking has reached first place. At this moment, Baron was utterly shocked because Xing Jihan was completely unharmed under his flames. To be precise, the flames couldn't even touch him. It was only now that he realized, could this guy also use the force? Of course, the man confirmed this. But Baron thought it was impossible because only he, with 2 professions, could possess such power. The man, however, explained, "That's just your assumption." After obtaining this power with his own hands, he realized that Baron simply wouldn't use this power. Upon hearing this, Baron was immediately furious. Countless magical forces erupted from his body in an instant. He intended to use this strike to take out Xing Jihan. But the man appeared completely composed. He then slowly pulled out a crystal from his pocket. It was an item he had unexpectedly remembered yesterday. Crystal shards can grant players a one-turn divine blessing. As the man used it, all of his attributes instantly increased by 50%. "Now, let's have a fight to the death." He just used a simple thrust, but it broke through Baron's invincible flame wave. And when he was about to unleash his full power strike, everyone thought the man was doomed to lose. But only he knew he would definitely win, because the Shadow Queen was watching him. As the two prepared for a life-and-death battle, Baron recalled the first half of his life. He used to be a complete coward. His small stature made him very afraid of fighting. Everyone had just one opinion of Baron. He wasted excellent talent. He could choose between 2 professions, and with the right combination, he could dominate the entire network at any time. But he chose healing and magic, taking on a support role in the team. However, after gaining power, Baron completely changed. Relying on innate magic, in every round of the competition, he won with overwhelming strength. Countless stars have fallen at his feet. Players who have faced Baron commented that he has 2 disasters. The first disaster is the Wave of Flames, a giant wave made of fire that engulfs countless enemies in one breath. To this day, no one has been able to escape this move. But today, even Han can counter with just one move, the Guiding Immortal Finger. He instantly nullified Baron's Wave of Flames. It was just an ordinary move, yet it left Baron utterly shocked. At this moment, the man also realized that although this guy seemed formidable on the surface, he was actually very empty inside. To conceal his lack of true strength, he deliberately used such flashy techniques. With the man's heavy strike, Baron was immediately knocked to the ground. At this moment, the man spoke, muttering, "You resemble someone I know. No matter how strong you pretend to be on the surface, you can never hide the deep-seated inferiority inside. You try everything to gain others' approval by training your body and changing your appearance, using flashy skills, deceiving yourself. But if you don't change your essence, then everything you're doing will be meaningless." At this moment, the man suddenly exerted his strength. "Next, let's end this." At this time, Baron slowly raised his right hand. The next second, a bolt of lightning struck directly at the man. It knocked him dozens of meters away on the spot. This is Baron's second disaster. Lightning, unlike the large waves of flames, is the highest level skill of compressing magic to kill the opponent in one hit. For Baron, this was his most skilled ability. But he was surprised to find the lightning didn't do much damage to the man, because at the moment Baron struck, Xing Jihan used his spear to block the fatal blow. And he had to admit, Xing Jihan's reaction was impressive. However, he was certain the man couldn't dodge the next attack, because this time he will unleash his full power in one strike. At this moment, everyone present thinks the man is sure to lose. After all, no one can withstand this move. But only the man knows he is sure to win, because the Shadow Queen is watching him. At this moment, the man slowly raises the Sword of the Phoenix. And just as Baron uses lightning, he moves with the speed of lightning. He threw the sword in his hand. In the next second, Baron was killed on the spot. Although the phoenix sword disappears after being thrown 5 times, the man had no hesitation at this moment, because his target was never Baron, but the Queen of Shadows outside the arena, accompanied by a loud noise. For the first time, the Roman Colosseum was seen in ruins. He just threw an ordinary arrow. Yet, everyone was utterly shocked, because for the first time, he broke the barrier of the Roman arena, and he became the first guy to challenge the Shadow Queen. Just before the man shattered the arena's defense with one move. On the other side, Li Haiyan was watching the screen, feeling utterly shocked by the scene of the man beating through 8 rounds, because he had bet everything on Baron. If things keep going like this, he'll lose everything he earned last time. At this moment, a voice stopped him. It seems you don't believe I can win this competition. Although it was expected, it's hard not to feel a bit sad. Li Haiyan affirmed this, as she had lost from the start. At least she should stick it out till the end, right? However, she also noticed that Lin Jiaying was in a very good mood. It seemed she gained a lot from this competition. Of course, she affirmed it, because it could be seen from the battle that she is constantly making progress. At this moment, the noise from the phone beside them caught their attention. At this moment, everyone's gaze focused on the Roman Colosseum. Baron was extremely angry because at this time he realized that Xing Jihan's target was not him at all. Right after destroying the barrier, at this moment, the phoenix sword has returned to the man's hand again. It's been a long time. Shadow Queen, and in the next second, countless black energies spread across the entire arena in an instant. At this moment, all the phones in front of the screens lost signal. The entire arena was shrouded in endless darkness. Just staying here, even breathing consumed a lot of stamina. He could feel the Shadow Queen watching him. But there was no prompt from the window. Obviously, this was far from being a provocation. Then, the man suddenly exerted force. A move called Immortal Points the Way attacked the Shadow Queen. It struck directly on her. But soon the man realized something was wrong, because she actually absorbed this wave of sword energy. This means that all of Xing Jihan's attacks were ineffective against her. At this moment, surrounded by dark shadows, the man suddenly swung a punch at them. But he didn't feel any impact. Could they all just be shadows? Then all the shadows launched an attack on the people. During the confrontation, the man realized that physical attacks had no effect on them, so he immediately used divine power, as he suddenly swung out a strike. Although it didn't cause him any harm, much of his presence was erased by divine power. This means the shadows have no resistance to divine power. At this moment, a shadow suddenly grabbed the man's right foot. The next second, another shadow launched a fierce attack on him. At this moment, the man suddenly opened his eyes wide. Then countless bolts of lightning shot towards the surroundings, instantly repelling all the shadows on the spot, looking at their utterly shocked expressions. As expected, as long as there's light, they don't dare to act rashly. At that moment, the lightning around the man dimmed significantly. As he turned around, he saw an enormous figure launching an attack at him. Damn, this is really bad. He only summoned a weak flame. Yet it shocked everyone present, because this flame not only illuminated the entire arena, but also completely eradicated the massive shadow, as the shadow launched an attack on the man. At that moment, Xing Jihan quickly sidestepped to dodge it. After all, he wasn't using a connector, and taking this hit would definitely result in instant death. A battle net connector can reduce the pain during a match, and is essential equipment for participating in competitions. Most top players choose models that reduce more than 90%. By eliminating the fear brought by pain, they can boldly showcase their talents. But Xing Jihan didn't use the connector. And the reason is very simple, because the virtual battlefield would soon become reality. The connector's function is only temporary. Once the Space Alliance emerges, it will all become useless. So Xing Jihan chose to adapt in advance. When he was scorched by flames, and struck by 1,000,000 volts of electricity, he is enduring unimaginable pain. Meanwhile, everyone is utterly shocked by what's happening in front of them. They had never seen such a scene, but it seems the dark figure has locked onto Xing Jihan. At this moment, facing the dark figure's attack, the blue man can only try to dodge it, even though he knows this task is not that simple. But faced with this enormous system, the man had no way out. If he keeps hiding like this, he's bound to die sooner or later. And more importantly, that group is watching him. Due to the commotion caused by defeating Baron earlier, Xing Jihan became everyone's target. Faced with the situation of being attacked from both sides by the enemy, the man made a certain decision at this moment. In the next second, a fierce blaze suddenly burst forth. Since you chose to envelop me in darkness, Then I will use a stronger light to dispel the darkness. Nameless divine skill, 3 talents martial art. Afterward, an incredibly fierce flame surged toward the shadow. Accompanied by a deafening sound, the massive shadow was annihilated in no time. Even the onlookers were so frightened they fled in panic. Now only you remain, Shadow Queen. Then, shadows around him slowly enveloped him. It seems as long as his true form remains intact, it won't end. I won't let this continue. At this moment, the man suddenly activated 3 energy centers. Since the 3 talents martial arts had no effect on him, he could only use the nameless divine technique. Although it's not perfect at his current level, the Phoenix Sword can make up for the shortcomings. When the Phoenix Sword is thrown, the Phoenix Fire will be activated, and the man plans to use it to make up for his lack of strength. Long ago, lightning was interpreted as the wrath of the gods, a form of punishment from the heavens upon humans. But when the world was filled with darkness and chaos, lightning brought hope to the people. At this moment, Xing Jihan slowly gathered the power of lightning, its intensity even surpassing what his body could endure, accompanied by his loud shout. Purify all demons and evil. Thunder God's martial arts, nameless divine technique. Heavenly Thunder God's destruction.